Hopefully. Let's see. All right. Let me see if the notifications coming through.
That phone in trouble.
These folks operate. All right. Okay. Yep, they're delaying it. I know they said yesterday, oh, this fucker had a nice little thing yesterday. You know? Let's get them. Yeah. Yep. Look, and I sent the message into the chat about 12 seconds ago. It just popped up. This is crazy. They're delaying it. They're delaying it. Right. But anywho, honor to everyone that is watching. Honor to everyone that is joining. Honor to you all. I say peace, love, light, and welcome. Welcome to Shatabi Ahuakan Media, formerly known as Darkman X TV. We are Ahuakan Americans and descendants of the original people of the Americas. And we say welcome. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the platform. We say honor to you all, and welcome. To everyone on the panel, if you guys want to introduce yourself, starting with Kappa, Arawak, Lakono, and then we'll come to you, Sister Malky and Brother Alex.
All right. Peace. Peace to everybody on the panel. Peace to Darkman X. As always, peace to everybody that's in the chat, and peace to everybody that's also on the playback. I'm Copper Hotstep. I'm part of the ICCC, of which Lakono Empire is a part, of which also American Arawaks is a part. Yeah, there's many others out there. We also even have an Empress group as well within that group. They get active as well from time to time. They do some very good builds. But just to say much appreciation, to all the support that we've managed to gather thus far, and even the new support that we even get now still on a daily and weekly basis. So we just want to pay respect to all the people that have done that. So peace and shout out to all of you.
Yeah, man.
Greetings, one and all. As you know, I'm on this platform known as American Arawaks. I just do my best to present you information that could help you in real life, real time, tangible stuff. I'm also a Ahuacan American, descended from the original people, from more so the island of Jamaica. You know it as Jamaica in corporate terms. I am associated with my people, those who are on this panel, included. And we share the same common ancestry, which is more so from the island Jamaica. So everybody on this panel shares the common ancestry from the original people of the island known as Jamaica, as you know, Jamaica. And we are still here. We are alive. We didn't die out. The culture is still intact. Even though it's kind of watered down a little bit, but we're doing our best to really rejuvenate the culture, bring it back to life. Encourage the people, especially the people of the islands, Indians, the West Indians, that they should love who they are, accept who they are, and don't let nobody deter them from doing anything or being greater than anyone out there if they choose to. It's not a competition, but they want to be greater in their capacity. They can. We encourage it. And also for the mainland as well, we strongly we have roots in the mainland, whether north or south, and we embrace it. We strongly embrace all our ancestry. We are not colorist. We don't take sides as far as who's lighter and who's darker. We're not with that nonsense. And also, we are not politically affiliated. We try not to be. However, we are diplomatic, and we are only here with clean hands, um, non-belligerent, and we just want to tell our story, like everybody else who's telling their story. So we are here telling our story, and hopefully you guys will have respect and the honor that we have for you guys out there, all different cultures. And that's just my take for now.
Lacona.
Yes, pick up everybody. Risings, grand risings, or grand noon, or grand night. Yeah, it's Lakota Empire. Also known as Chief Inca, so everybody calls me. It was the clan that gave me that. You understand? ICC that gave me that title. Is it? Yeah. So it's always a pleasure to be on the platform with fellow West Indians. Wild Indians, the Wild West Indians, unruly, untamed, trust me. Yeah, so it's always a pleasure, man. Dark minutes, pick up yourself. Everybody in the chat, pick up themselves. On the playback as well, pick up yourself. All the site listeners, pick up yourself. You see it? Yeah, and that's it there. But yeah, man, I mean, it's time for our people to start, the ones that do need to start making moves. What do I mean by that? I mean, writing our stuff for our people, whether it's books, whether it's music, whether it's online, series such as a TV series or, a documentary or something like that. Time for me to start put the thing and present it to our people for our people. Is it like for you by us? Is it? Amerindians out of many one people. Unruly.
Yeah, man. Brother Alex, Sister Malkia.
Greetings, everybody. Greetings. Thanks for having me. I hope everyone out there is doing well. I hope everyone out here is in good health and spirits. I am from the island of Jamaica, the archipelago of Jamaica, the West Indies, and we are descendants of the original people of the Americas, and we are trying really hard to preserve our heritage and pass it on to our children to ensure that in the future generations, we will still have this heritage that keeps us alive and keeps us together. We are really about keeping our families together and building our families and developing our clans and our union. We're about just looking up after each other, taking care of each other, learning more about our history, our ancestry, our genealogy, and just making good forward movements for the future. So we, of course, would like to get to know all of our relatives out there, everyone out there, no matter how far along your journey you are at, whether you're just beginning or a little ways ahead. We just want to get to know everybody that's our relatives and journey together and develop together.
Greetings, one and all, honor, love, respect to all who are hearing our voices today. As I said before, my name is Alex. I'm from the island of Jamaica, right, also known as Jamaica, well, rightfully archipelago, because we're a chain of islands which may not be widely known. And I am indeed a descendant of the original peoples of this island. I am from, maternally, I'm from a region that is called Waigata, originally by our ancestors, now called St. Mary. Right, and maternal lineage was now known as Portland. Right, but originally the Rio Grande Valley. The sea up in the headlands, the headwaters of the Rio Grande River, the largest river of the island. And it is our mission as a set of people you hear having this discussion with you today. It's our mission to spread the word to one another that the descendants of the original people are still here. They did not die out. Right? Our ancestors were not wiped out. We are their inheritors by lineage, bloodline, and we very jealously guard that lineage. We formed an organization called the West Indian Tribal Society, affectionately known as WITS. And our aim and goal is to promote our culture and to inform and to all those who may hear us or speak to us in any way, shape, or form that we are alive and well, and to preserve the culture and the history of our people. Yeah, that's about it. Anything else, I suppose, will come up in the discussion.
Okay. All right. So I say welcome everyone. Welcome to you all. I saw a comment in the chat. Okay, look like Copper already answered it. Mecadon, is it Mecadon? All right, so that you're Dominican and Haitian. All right, so if one of your parentage is of Haitian heritage, the Haitians are the rightful Arawakan or indigenous people of the land. So you have Arawakan ancestry. Um, the Dominicans is also like yourself. There's Dominican people, like how you are mixed with Haitian and Dominican, that are also mixture of Haitians and the Castilians that came to that land. So it's your heritage. I don't want to tell you your heritage, but chances are, if you do your genealogy, you'll see that the folks of Haiti has always been there, and that your heritage might go back up into Spain or
France.
France. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just about doing the genealogy on the family names, which you will call the clan names, right? On both sides of your line, and all the other names that you come across while doing that genealogy, because you're going to come across a lot of names connected through blood lineage to your family, right? I tell folks, do not be ashamed of your heritage. Embrace it. If it wasn't for these lines coming together, you wouldn't be here, right? So even if your ancestors did certain wrongs in the past, you're still here. So don't be ashamed of your heritage. When you talk of both sides of your lineage, talk with pride, okay? Because they're the reasons why you're here. Um, and yeah, just if you're a stand-up, righteous, upright person, and you're doing the right thing, then it doesn't matter if your ancestors did this 300-400 years ago. If you're here now, correcting the wrongs and making right, that's what matters, right? So yeah, um, for folks who are doing their genealogy, right, and you want to find out your ancestry, it's the surnames, the clan names, those that what we call the family names. Trace back through those, right? The churches have the records. What are the churches that was where your ancestors were? They have the records. Um, what are the who were the original record keepers? Find these things out, and you find the trail to your ancestral lineage. All right. And then you'll see where the documents are being tampered with, right? Because you can go through the governmental archival records, and then there are also records that's also kept by the invading parties as well. And you'll be surprised the difference in the documentations, and you'll see whom was tampering with documents. All right. Um, which is going to lead us back to why we are here. This live was supposed to be the indigenous is not black redo of the live that we did before, right? So let me just say this: we do not discriminate against anyone of any complexion, any tone. Okay, as folks who have been following this platform for years know that a lot of the information that I've even shared came from pale folk people, right? That I've shared with you guys and put out there to you guys came from pale folks people, and the information for a good portion of the part is on point. So to discriminate against someone for their skin complexion, it will make you ignorant to information as it is being put out there. You're not going to want to hear it. You see what I'm saying? So we don't discriminate against anyone based on their skin complexion. We just defend what we know is true. And when someone or a group or any organizations out there is being deceitful and trying to erase our existence and trying to create new terms, new terminology. You see, when people create words like, well, what was it? Abocentrism. That's what they call it. Abocentrism. What is that? That's not even a word.
Yeah.
They created that shit. And let's get hip to it. When they're saying abo in the way of how they're saying it, or when they're saying African features or African connected or African ancestry, they're saying monkey. That's literally what they're saying. Right? They're saying monkey, okay? And they're doing their best to distance themselves from the Abo people, right? Now remember, Abo goes back to Aboriginal, Aborigine. When you look up the original definition of American, it goes back to Aborigine, okay? Now, melanated people all over the world all identify as something different. Not everyone wants to be called Aboriginal or Aborigines, okay? Like when people call what you were saying earlier, Arawak, the Australians, they don't like to be considered to be Aboriginals. They want to be called indigenous.
I think that was Alex was saying that, or
No, that
Papa.
was it.
But I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. That was who was saying that. Kappa or Locono?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see, so when these folks are saying abo, right, they're using it in a disrespectful term. All right. And we just putting it out there to all the Indians of the Americas that when folks are referring to you as abo, certain people from certain organizations, right, it's a disrespectful term. If you go back and you're tracing back through history, you'll see that your ancestors, who would be predominantly or who will be identified as dark of you people, whomever was doing the censuses at those times, just wrote them off as African. They asked them what they identified as. They just wrote them off as African, and that was it, right? And they lodged it in the records. But then now, say that ancestor migrated from somewhere else. And when you go to where the ancestor migrated from, they're not listed as African. So now, what's going on here? What is happening here? Why is this record saying one thing and this record saying something else? But this record is saying, well, my great grand uncle came in from Kalamazoo, right? And he was identified as a dark-skinned Kalamazooian, right? But now here they come into the Americas. They did the census, right? But they didn't ask them what they identified as on the census. When they was asking them the questions, they only asked them, hey, what's your name? You gave them your name. What's your date of birth? You gave them your date of birth. Okay, and you live right here now. Yes, you live here now. They write that down. They walk off. Then when they walk off, they write, boom, African, because they saw that you're dark skinned on the census papers, and they lodge it in the system as African. Okay? Now, which brings me to the censuses that we are folks have been participating in over the years that will have Black or African American on it. They use that for you to check those boxes to erase you from the records of these lands, to displace you to an imaginary place called Africa. Africa is not even Africa. And if people dig into the history, you learn that Africa is not even Africa. There's one little land in what they're now calling all of Africa that is Africa. One little small land, one land that they renamed today. Okay, so the cover up is real, and you have folks who will say, "Oh, we honor our African featured ancestors that was in the Americas." But here's the thing: folks from the Americas don't identify with being African. Those whom still have the ancestral lineage, those whom still identify with the ancestors, we don't identify as that. It's the people who are trying to replace us who are throwing that out there. Oh yes, we're not colorist, but we identify with our we identify with our African features. You see what they're doing there when they say African features, mind you. The original people of the land and the descendants of the original people of the land who are dark of hue, melanated people, we don't identify as Africans. So they're throwing that title on you because the darker you are, they throw the African title on you. And we know back in the Darwin days, the darker you are, they try to place you to be in relations to a goddamn monkey. So when they say Abo, African features, they're saying monkey. That's what they're saying. And they're colorists. They're trying to segregate from their darker view ancestors. The rewrite is real. If y'all remember when I had the other platform, I showed y'all pictures of them on the Mayan walls actually bleaching out some of the imagery. Okay? Brother Alex, I don't the artifacts. Matter of fact, no, let's not start with that. Let's not start with that yet, right? Let us state our disclaimer and just put it out there to begin with. All right. You may go first. And then Sister Malkia and then the rest of us. Yeah.
All right, no problem. All right, so to be clear, there are a few things that we want to address. Okay, because there is a growing movement. There are two growing movements online. You have a movement of people who have been identified as the so-called Aboriginal movement. That movement seems to be a set of people who say that all of the dark-skinned people who are in the Americas now are indigenous to the Americas and they have no other origins. There is another movement of people who I would describe them as more Hispanic people who are heavily mixed with the Spaniards who were here. Very, very dominant in their features, you can see. And they have begun to say that they are, I'm not saying that they're not descended from the original peoples. Please let me be clear. But they are saying that they who have a certain type and feature are the people. They identify as Taino. And they are the authority and they know all of the protocols and this and that and thing. And anyone who has a darker skin complexion is automatically branded by them as being an Abo in a particular group of people. Now let me be very clear to everyone. All of us who are in this chat today, I can speak for very easily. And I will say this on the group's behalf. We are in neither of these groups. We are in neither of these movements, nor do we share any beliefs with them. We are well aware that many people came to the Americas during the time of colonization, active colonization. We are well aware that some people who are called African, those people are also very proud people who have their own identities, their own ethnic groups, their own languages, their own religions and way of doing things, and they are very proud, and some of them are very beautiful people. Their cultures are very wonderful and multifaceted. I don't know every African culture, but I can say this, the ones that I have seen are very interesting, and I think that it is great how well the African people have preserved their culture. And I think if I were to envy anything in life, I would envy the power that they've managed to maintain as a separate people. A lot of them have been able to maintain their kingdoms, their chiefdoms, or whatever system of government. They've been able to maintain many millions and thousands of acres of land. A lot of that land is very rich with mineral wealth and water and animals of all kinds. They are a wonderful people. And a lot of them ended up over here. A lot people don't know, a lot of them ended up over here by choice. A lot of them decided to come. And some did not make that decision, some were brought. And so it's the same for the East Indian people. So it's the same for the Chinese people. A lot of the British sent away many original East Indians and original Chinese people when they were, invading Hong Kong and all of these places. They wanted to enter the land of these people, and so they sent them over here to work. A lot of original Irish, Celtic people were exiled to the Americas, right? And I myself have Celtic origins as well, right? I find that I am of both indigenous and Celtic extraction. I'm digging deeper to see if there's anything else, but that's overwhelmingly what I'm seeing in my genealogy at this point in time, okay? I can say this for a certainty. We take no extremist views. We are not bigoted, we are not racial, and we are certainly not racist, right? We are certainly not racist, okay? We are people who have heard a certain thing growing up. We are people. I myself, when I was being raised, I was told that Columbus came and saw our people here and saw us here. That is what I heard from my household, okay? And people don't understand what the island they now call Jamaica has been through, right? We've been through double colonization. The Spanish were here for hundreds of years. The British, I say that the British are still here. They have not left, right? Because they're still referenced to crown lands and God save the Queen when you go to court and all of those things. We're still under occupation, okay? And so we have been through a whole lot, and a lot of our culture has been erased. And we are people who were told by our elders to cling to our history. And that is what we are doing. We make no apologies to anyone. And we beg no friendships, no allies with anyone who doesn't see eye to eye with us. We are here to defend our West Indian people who have a shared issue of colonization. Okay? We are here to dispel myths, right? Because there are a lot of myths. It is painted as if only Africans were enslaved, and that, millions of Africans were brought here on ships rammed up in them like sardines. This is also quite false. No one could last for 2 months being defecated and urinated on by other people. Food deprivation, water deprivation, and deprivation of space. Okay, that's nonsense, right? And during the summertime, we have what is known as hurricane season, right? The hurricane has always been a feature of our landscape, and it makes the sea. It would have made the sea impassable for those wooden leaky ships that they had at the time, right? So many of the so-called slaves that we had in Jamaica were coming from the Americas as well, Central America and South America, and there is proof. Okay, we can do our whole life just cutting out that proof, right? The Spanish did it before, and the British they took over in 1655 until 1741 when an Indian Freedom Act was passed, Indian Emancipation Act was passed, making all Indians free, right? And it was retroactive. So Indians were never seen in the law as being freed men or freed women, who were seen to have always have been free. Indians and their descendants. Okay? So we just like people to know that we are the descendants of those people, and we're still here. And it doesn't matter what anybody is mixed with. If you're a descendant of someone, you just are, and that's it. End of story. Finally, I'd like to make it clear. About a year ago, there was a newspaper article that was speaking about an individual from the archipelago of Jamaica, now known as Jamaica, who was installed as a cacique, as our people called our chief, right? That individual in the article in one of our daily newspapers, he was portrayed as being the chief of Jamaica, and Jamaica's first so-called Taino chief in 500 years. I'd just like to make it very clear to everyone that that individual is only the chief over those who consent to his rulership or leadership, or I don't know how they structure their affairs. But he's only chief over those who are a part of his Yukayeke or village. Yukayeke means place that one eats yuca or cassava, right? Because our people, our culture hinged very heavily on the ground product, the ground food called cassava. And to this day, this chain of islands, now called Jamaica, may be the only place where you can go into a supermarket, no matter how upscale, and find the famous cassava, or as we call it, more colloquially, bami, right? Where you can find that packaged in a commercial way that one can just go and buy. Right? It's still very, very much a big part of our culture. But I'd like to reiterate, there is no chief of Jamaica. There is no all-island chief. There never has been. There's no paramount chief. Our land was separated into villages of different peoples, different clans or bloodlines, and each of them elected their leader based on their traditions. Okay, so we are a part of the West Indian Tribal Society, and that's it.
Sister Malkia. Are you? Hold on. Let's see if it's still there. Yeah.
Greetings, Ron. Well, I mean, Alex said a lot. As in regards to, our identity and our heritage, that is something that you inherit from your parents and grandparents, your family, your kinship group. It doesn't matter if it does matter, because every piece of your ancestry matters. So if you are mixed, it is encouraged that you embrace that heritage, but you are also free to identify with whichever part is more resonates with you, or whichever part you have the strongest connection with. Because I know that there are many people out there who they may have one parent being from one ethnic group and another being from another ethnic group. Even amongst indigenous American ethnic groups or indigenous American tribes, you often find that you have some people where a mom may be from one tribe and another may be from another tribe. And you find that most often, that person may identify more with their mother's side if they were raised in their mom's village, or their father's side if they were raised in their dad's village. So, people usually identify with that which they have the most experience and connection with. So you're not must and bound to identify with all of your culture. It would be great, but people are free to identify. As it concerns people of mixed heritage, it doesn't matter the color, whatever color, shape you are. I don't know if we're discriminating based on shapes too, but it doesn't matter what it is that distinguish you or make you unique. If you are descended from someone, then you have the right to claim that heritage. It doesn't matter what you look like, and I am firmly against any type of discrimination whatsoever. Because heritage is very important. Heritage is your inheritance, as the word suggests. As it concerns, there are lots of people that they like power, and they like to be in charge of things, and that's fine. They're free to be in charge of their own thing or whatever it is that they're involved in. But human beings have the right and the freedom to associate with that, with whatever they want to associate with. So I am firmly against people who would like to, or people who are trying to usurp authority over other people. I think those are dangerous lines that when you cross them, it's a slippery slope to tyranny. So, I think that we should really, really distance ourselves from those ways of thinking. So as it concerns you, I just want to let everybody know there that, when you're learning about your heritage, and when for some of us out there who may be trying to, strengthen their kinship groups and their structures and their organizations, always bear in mind that, our people were always firm believers in freedom, and we were always opposed to oppression. So I just encourage everybody out there, just distance yourself from oppression and oppressive views and oppressive perspectives and ideology.
Okay. Kapad step, what say you?
Yeah, actually, when I was when I was not really as astute with things as I am now, like if we'd gone back to like 2017, like, I literally didn't know none of the stuff that I speak about now, and 2017 wasn't that long ago. So back then my knowledge of things was pretty much in line with what would be considered a mainstream or academically accepted perspective, when it comes to terms like colors, and colors are people, and things like this. And it's a really scarily dangerous thing, because I think everybody can probably relate to being young, being in kindergarten, or we call it nursery. You draw pictures of yourself, right? You draw a self-portrait of yourself, and you draw a picture of mom, dad, siblings, and whatever. And if we're going to be completely honest, I don't think anybody ever used a black crayon to color in themselves and the picture of their mom and dad and their siblings. Maybe to color in your hair and your eyes, your pupils. But I mean, to actually color yourself in within the picture, I don't think anybody actually used the black crayon for that purpose, to denote any type of skin tone. Do you see what I mean? And so it's that childlike knowledge of self that I think people need to really get back to, because I don't know, it's a bit weird. It's kind of like a sinister thing where they give you the blueprint from when you're very young. These are the colors, this is this is that. And then from that point onwards, you end up in front of a television at home, or in your friend's house, or in an auntie's house, or whatever. And then, the information you're now receiving through that medium is completely conflicting to the pictures you were used to drawing as a child, where everybody was a brown tone of skin, as they're supposed to be. And so it really goes to show you that there is definitely a system of some sort that's in place, where they're really leaving it up to you to kind of navigate through your own kind of how can I say, intellectual capacity for you to really substantiate where you fit in within this world, you know. Are you going to exercise self-determination? Are you going to come to your own conclusions? Or are you going to take everything back to a crayon of some sort? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, American Arawak.
Yeah, as I was researching just now, as far as this thing that I call melanin, that they say that's what get the skin dark of you and all of that. My question is, um, isn't melanin found in the hair as well?
Yeah.
So, am I to say that your hair complexion came from Africa? You know what I'm saying? So it's just not making any sense as far as using that to denote where somebody come from, because the very thing that make the skin dark and have a, s- a darker hue complexion is the very same thing that's found behind the eyes, the iris, that pupil. You know what I'm saying? And the very same thing that's found in the hair, the hair that makes the hair get dark of hue. So, what am I supposed to do? Separate the hair from your head and say, okay, if I see a so-called Caucasian man, should I separate the hair on his head that have melanin, or he's light of hue, he's light, pale, because he's melanin deficient. All it is melanin deficiency. That's all. When you see a Caucasian, that's all that is. It's a mineral deficiency, because melanin is a form of mineral. So am I to say that his hair come from Africa, and then him come from somewhere else? So you see, the concept to say all people who are dark skinned come from one place is total ludicrous. Because the very same thing that make the skin dark is not because it come from Africa and make the skin dark. It's a genetic it's a genetic sequence. It's our genetic coding. So does genetics only um uh genetics only confined to one area, or isn't genetics a planetary thing, or does it confine to one area? So when you start to ask these basic questions, how does one who go with the narrative answer all the questions I just asked? Should I separate the hair and the head and say the hair and the head because it's dark come from Africa, because it has pigmentation from a genetic sequence? Does that genetic sequence confine to Africa only, or is it worldwide? Because I'm pretty sure everywhere on the planet have people with dark hair. So am I to say people with dark hair come from Africa? So how much sense does it make? Scientifically, scientifically alone, it makes no sense. You know what I'm saying? And then to put it to put it into a lecture or, literature, that's when it becomes totally ludicrous. So all I'm saying is that people need to look more into the genealogy of where they're from versus picking up a book or watching Toby or watching Kunta Kinte, and you just accept a color that really hides who you are. When all you're really saying is that you don't want to do the research. So you're gonna hold on tight to a color to identify yourself. So you're gonna disregard all the ancestors that came before you for that puts you where you are right now for a color. That's what you're really doing. You're trading your ancestry for a color. what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that's just my concept of what I've discovered, you know, as far as looking at in what melanin is and all of that. So I see Stephen Red Clay says something about melanin is not on the periodic table of elements, but carbon is. Yes, that's absolutely right. But that's what I'm saying. Maybe the same thing that they call in melanin is really carbon. So it's just another word for carbon, really. Because if this is the thing that makes your skin get this tone, this dark tone, then wouldn't you say that it would be coming, it would be coming from some kind of source beyond this plane? That is a genetic, some kind of intelligent source to get your skin protected. You know what I'm saying? Protect your skin, protect your layer, your outer layer from radiation. Isn't that some kind of genius of the sort? If you think about it, you know, because I'm pretty sure that the people who are dark skinned outnumber the people who are so-called pale. That's not a racial thing, and I'm just saying that's just the order. That's how it is worldwide. You know, so that's just my take on it for now.
Brother Lacono?
Yes. I mean, growing up, I mean, there was no confusion for me what I was and who I was from an early age. Only when I went to school, that's when I learned about this black stuff. But even when Copper said, going back into the early years, I'm going to have to reflect, you know, going to primary school and nursery and these things, and you draw pictures. I never picked up a black crayon or a black pencil, you know, to draw my skin tone. It's always brown. It's always been brown, you know, for my face or for my parents. You know, parents is brown too. You know, only time I use black is for the face, for father's facial hair and for the hair. That's it. You know, 10 years ago, I never knew these type of stuff. Like, to the context I'm talking of now, like what couple was saying. Yes, I knew certain things, but I didn't know how far it extended to regarding culture, history, identity, and these type of things. Yeah, I knew I was a West Indian, but I mean, school saying one thing, the grandparents saying the next thing, which the narrative what your grandparents painted is totally the opposite of what you've been told growing up in school. You see it, but I mean, this black thing don't make it, man, because black is just a color, you know. It hides your identity, it hides your nationality, it hides your culture, you know. And everybody, if everybody came from Africa, that means surely everybody from both hemispheres you have the same culture as the people in that place they call Africa, which originally applied to Tunisia. People don't know, you know. It's a joke.
Yeah. You know what kills me? When you look all over the world, right? You have a specific set of people. I'm not saying that it's all of them that put themselves everywhere that dark skinned people are and want to reteach them about their history. Who are you? These people has been there for thousands of years before you even came. These people can't even tell you when your tribal ancestors migrated over to their lands and started living in the woods as a tribe as well. And you want to reteach these people on their history. You have folks in South Africa reteaching the Africans, people who are now being called Africans, about their history. That is not even from some of those regions, those areas. Hmm? You have people who have took over Germany and are now teaching the darker view Germans that they came from what they now call Africa, right? You have people in France doing the same thing, people in England doing the same thing, people in Spain doing the same thing. And here you go. The descendants of these people come here now into the Americas, and every time they run into a darker view person, oh, you're from Africa. That's where you're from. and they're telling you where you're from as if they came out your mama's vagina with you. This is asinine. And you really have people sitting here believing these folks. And this is why when I did the live yesterday, I said your surname, that family name that you have, that a lot of people change. When you change that name, you are erasing an entire ancestry, because these people could talk until all these farts come out their mouth. All they want. There's thousands of places that has your genealogy by those names locked away. And I guarantee when you start digging through them, you're going to see who was tampering with your records and who was working in the record offices at the time. The same people with the Darwinism theory, with the same eugenics agenda, were some of the ones that was working in the recording offices. And when they saw that you were darker tone, or they saw that your ancestors' documents said Negro on it, they automatically, when they're supposed to type up the information in the computer, they slap African on the title. Okay? Then you have their children running around creating tribes, right? And going all throughout the Americas trying to learn. Because I'll tell you what's going on. They going throughout the Americas and they ask you questions. They come to you and they ask you questions about your land that you are on. And they get a little bit of information and they store it. And they move on to the next town or the next village or country over. And they do the same thing. And they came throughout the Americas and they stored those information. Mind you, you didn't even give them the real keys, right? Because I'm pretty sure every tribe that they came across did not give them the real keys, okay? They only gave them the surface shit, but that was good enough for them to run with. Now, they come down into the North Americas and they've done the same thing. Now they're in the Isles of the North Americas, which we call the West Indies or the Caribbean, right? And they're doing the same thing, but they only got surface information. And the very same people that they got this surface information from, they have the nerve then to rewrite back the information that they got from them, and they put all that information in one conglomerate and created a falsified fucking history. And when they did that, they now come and had the nerve to look at you and try to put the reverse stereotype, saying that you're discriminating against them because of their native features, or because they are Amerindian. But what is an Amerindian? What is a Native American? What is an American Indian? Because if we want to be truthful, those weren't even terms that the original ancestors even identified as. And everyone knows the terms that their ancestors originally identified as. And at bottom line, it comes back down to the Incas, the Aztecs, and the Mayas, whom they wrongfully called the Olmecs also as well, right? Now, it's interesting because when you get into the Olmecs, there's Olmec statues in the archipelago of Jamaica. So these people who are now coming to the Jamaica and trying to rewrite the history of the people are asking the folks on the land if they know where the pyramids are down there, and still have the nerve to go tell them in their little group chats and stuff that because they're more of a darker skin, they come from Africa, but it's these Africans you're asking if they can show you where the fucking pyramids are. And then you have the nerve to sit here and try to write them out of history and are in their record office changing their ethnicity to something else to separate them from the land. And they've done that all throughout the Americas, up and down the goddamn seaboard. And this is how they sold you into the fabricated story of millions. No Africans came over here on slave boats. I'm just going to say it. When they're saying African, they just came up with that terminology to take you away from the land, and they're just calling you a fucking monkey. Okay? That's what they're doing, because they came and they saw a lot of darker view people here. All right? That's what it was. So when we say we are honoring our ancestry, we're honoring the original people of the Americas. In order to get a brown skin or a light skinned person, their genealogy must trace back to a darker view complexion person. It has to. It is common science. So where do these people come from to say, well, even though we have African features, because our complexion is so fair, we are mixed with Native American and Amerindian. What are you talking about? That makes absolutely no sense. Only a racist and a bigot would say that, to find every excuse to segregate from the darker view grandmother and grandfather. Okay? And you have a group out there that's building strong momentum, right? That is being that look like now they're becoming backed by certain mainstream features out there. And I'm telling you guys, if you don't wake up, you're going to find yourself in some hardship of perils underneath the thumbs of these folks. Okay? If you don't speak up, a closed mouth don't get fed. You have folks out there that's making federal contracts. Okay? And these things. Have you read those federal contracts? Do you know what it is? You know, when you sign a federal contract with the federal government, damn, you sold your soul. That's what it is. And to the extent of how you want to go help your people, you can't even help them to that extent, because the federal government has to review everything and okay everything that you want to do. So if they don't okay that shit, you can't do nothing. Okay? So this is why we say to the Indians of this Western Hemisphere, the Indians of the Americas, right? Matter of fact, no. To the descendants of the original people of the Americas. I don't care if you have half of the bloodline of the original people, 3/4. You goddamn it, if you have it, you have it. And that's why it's important to trace back that clan name, not the name that you just recently came up with. Because when you go and trace back that name that you just recently came up with, nothing is going to come up. So you have to keep that clan name. Don't get rid of it. If you want to add on your new name to it that you created, that's fine. Don't get rid of that clan name. That is your blood. That is your genetics. That is your genetic marker. Everything is in that name. So when you ask these ones that are running around trying to replace you, ask them, what are your clan name? Not some made up shit that they just decided to make up because they went and they tricked the folks in South America to give them some information and then give them a clan name. Let them give you the real clan name that was on that goddamn birth certificate. Okay? And then run that genealogy and see the bullshit. See everything come to light. See everything come to light. That's why we here, we're not playing the bullshit game. We're just gonna cut everything out. If you're gonna want to come at me, or you're gonna want to come at us, or you're gonna want to come at the peoples of the Americas because their ancestors was dark skinned, so you automatically want to throw them up into Africa. But if their ancestors was fair skinned, oh, they're Amerindian. How racist is that? We here know for years that you've been changing and highlighting the imagery on the walls. Even the tribes in the rainforest will tell you they came here and saw these sculptures here. They came here and saw these pyramids. Obviously, if you're claiming those tribes, they didn't build none of that shit. And this came from their mouth. Even folks on the reservation would tell you that, hey, when we came here, we saw these things here. And these are the $5 Indian ones we're talking about. We're not talking about the ones on the reservation with the original blood in them. We're talking about the hippies that used to go on the reservations in the 70s and the 80s and just stayed. We're talking about the Asians that was kicked out of Asia and was sent here into the Americas. that would tell you they saw all this shit that was already here already. Before the flood, the mud flood, before even that. Because we're not going to sit here and act like there wasn't another ancient set of people that was here. But the fact is, our ancestors was here before everybody else. That's just the facts. And we're not saying that, okay, we don't like you because, no. We have an issue because you're pushing a campaign to try to formulate contracts to ship our people into Africa. And look at the timing. This is why we warn you folks about these censuses, okay? This is why we warn you about them. They're dangerous, okay? They're very much so dangerous. And this is why we must wake up. We must wake up and stop letting people talk certain things and get away with it all the time. Because when they put out something out there publicly, okay, it is called, when you stay quiet, acquiescing. And you acquiesce. That means you agree to what they're saying. Okay? And this is how quick you get your ancestry snuffed out and stolen from you. We hear the migration of the Irish, during when Cromwell and them kicked out a lot of the melanated Irish out of Ireland and shipped them all throughout the Americas. All right? But when they came here, they came with their surnames. When they married the females that were here, or the females married them, names were exchanged. So you inherited that name. Okay? So not only do you still have your original American name, you have the name of your ancestors that came over from other landmasses here. So run that genealogy. That's why we have no time to discriminate on someone because of goddamn skin complexion. It makes no sense to do so. Okay? When we can easily prove a lot with a hell of a lot of documents and a hell of a lot of historical records. And the fact is, even with the series that Curry Mayer has done, the series that Lacono, Kappa, even American Arawaks have done, we shouldn't even still be sitting here talking about this shit now today. But when you have people with ill intentions, it doesn't matter what you show them, because they understand the science, that they keep saying it over and over and over and over enough and don't stop and keep going at it, they can change the outcome. All they need is to catch you slipping one time. And you're slipping. They're catching you slipping. Anyone, Brother Alex, Sister Malkia, you want to chime in? If you want to chime in.
Yeah, what I really want to say to the people out there, is just be careful who you associate with, right? Be careful who you associate with. Be careful who you give your energy to, because we see where you have a lot of people that are asking others to give away their individual identity to be a part of a bigger group. So what people need to understand is, we as a collective here that you're hearing today have a big problem, not just with those bigoted so-called natives or whoever who are saying that we are not Indian enough because of our complexion or whatever it is that they're saying, right? We also have a problem with the people who are saying that you hate yourself because you should be worshiping Africa. You should change your name. For example, that's a big problem right now. A lot of people are being instructed and have been being instructed for at least 20, 30 years now by a lot of extremist groups, right, to change their names. Now let me advise the family here, very, very important. It's very important that no matter what, before you jump up and change your name, go and check out the origin of that name. Okay, go and check that origin, because you're gonna find in a lot of cases that your people did not get that name from a slave master. I'm not saying that there aren't people, because I've seen in the records where you have people who are said to be property of so and so, and are given a name at baptism, right? Because they had some kind of other name. We don't know what name that was. Okay, we don't know. But the records say so and so, property of so and so, baptized and name change. We don't know what that name was, so let's not assume the ethnicity of a person because of that. So I'm not saying that there aren't people out there who have had that situation, but I'm saying do your due diligence before you jump up and give away your inheritance. Okay, before you give up your family's illustrious history. Okay, as X said earlier, there are a lot of us who are descended from the original Gaels who inhabited Ireland and Scotland, right? Now, what does that mean? Well, in 1655, when the British so-called invaded the island now called Jamaica, right, it was a good excuse for Oliver Cromwell, who was Lord Protector of Britain at the time, when they had deposed the monarchy for a little while. He found it as a great excuse to get rid of those whose land he wanted and who didn't conform to what he was trying to create, which was a whitewashed Britain, which is what we see today. People need to be abreast of the fact that a lot of these names that we're calling colonial names and names, slavery names that we got from slave masters, are names of the original Gaels, right, who are also called Celts, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, you name it.
Isle of Man.
Right, Isle of Man, and so many others that we're just learning now. Right, a lot of these names are coming from those original Gaelic names. People need to understand the Gaels are different from the Indo-Europeans who came during what is known in history as the barbarian invasions. Right? People need to know the difference between the Anglo-Saxon and the original indigenous Gaelic people who have been being persecuted from the times of the Roman Empire. Okay? When you hear about the Roman invasion of Gaul, where it's now called France, those people that got invaded and in some cases driven out of Gaul, right? They are the same people who are in Ireland, who are in Scotland, right? Who are in many other places. And we're just starting to uncover that history. When I was growing up, my grandmother made me know that her paternal side was Irish, right? And her maternal side is what contains the indigenous aspect, okay? And even her maternal side, her mother, right, had Scottish ancestry as well, right? And these were not white people. These were not pale people. I have pictures of my ancestors going back a decent ways, right? My family members have done their genealogy, and we know for a great extent who we are. Okay, and I am never giving up my name, whether for religious reasons or for whatever Afrocentric reasons. You need to do your research before you make a rash decision, such as changing your name. And if you take on a different name because of something you identify with, I implore you to please keep your surname. Maintain your surname. Your given name is not the issue. If you don't like your given name, you can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. But you see that surname is your inheritance. And in many cases, the colonists, they didn't want us to know what was ours. Okay, so all genealogical records were covered up. Right now in the so-called Corona COVID time, a brother from the listeners right, who we've gotten very close to, asked us to do some research for him. And we had to do some for ourselves. And when we went into the capital of the island, what they call the island's capital, Kingston, no library, no archival institution, no place of learning was open to the public. Yet still, they are now in the process of restarting dances and parties and all of that. That it's okay to go and do that and party and drink and get drunk and waste time, but we who want to know ourselves, we don't have any access to the records because they've closed them due to COVID, as they say. This is real right now, people. We need to recognize that more than ever it is important for us to take hold of who we are and to realize what our true history is. It's not like one time when the books were hidden. A lot of them have been digitized, and the time that you spend arguing with lunatics online, you can actually do a lot of your genealogy online. The Mormons, otherwise known as the Church of Latter-day Saints, they have a whole lot of genealogical records. They have a website called Geni, Geni, and I can tell you that even for our island, which may seem as if there are no records, they have records going back to the 1600s on that website.
Yep.
Right? So we now really need to get serious about who we are. We need to take charge. We need to be interested. Don't allow somebody who didn't know your parents, didn't know your grandparents or anything, tell you who you are based on how you look. That's folly. Right? Be proud of who you are. Be proud of who you look. Because how you look. Because you look like your ancestors. And it's just a matter of time. If you're diligent and serious, you will find out who those ancestors were. And that's my advice to the people listening. Get serious about who you are, your identity.
That's real talk, man. That's real talk. You see, we don't have time to waste and play games with certain ones out there. You know, in life, you're going to have people, you're going to have a section of people that just wants to create chaos, destruction, right? And say they get what they want. It's obvious that they don't even know how to keep it, okay? Because they'll always need you around to build on top of it because of genetically of whom you are, of what you reserve with inside of you, all right? Especially that creativeness. And this is why this is why they track down those whom are descendants of certain lineages in the world, okay? And this is what people have to understand. And this is what's going on now today. You see, our brother mentioned that you can't get into the learning buildings, right? The libraries are closed. Yes, they've closed the libraries. The Library of Congress right now is still closed today. You can't get into it.
It's a reset.
There, and this is why I say there's a big census coming up. And this, whatever happens in the islands, they push towards the mainland. And I want y'all to wake up and understand to how connected you guys are, how connected we are. Certain things that they push in the islands drastically affects the mainland. And certain things that they push in the mainland drastically affects the islands, okay? Because of the reset and because a lot of island folks who are still in the mountains of the islands who are predominantly Negro people still holds to the ancestry and they are still alive. They are still here. These people need to create a major distraction to destroy the records in front of your face. If they're opening up bars, restaurants, party establishments, but the libraries are not open, the halls of records, the archive records are not open, and those are supposed to be essential places with essential workers, that's supposed to be open, might I add, is unconstitutional and illegal and against the law. They're doctoring the electronic records. And this is why it's important that when you do your genealogy, you ask for a printout of the microfilm and ask that it be mailed to you and that you get actual copies of the microfilm. Then you go look at the electronic record that they have, that they typed in, and you're going to see where changes have been made, because they need to prepare you for that census that's coming to the West Indies, to the Caribbean, that they added African on that shit, and probably Taino, okay, on there. All right. Now here you are being brainwashed, and the thing is, some of our people are part to blame, because you took the government contract, you sold out. Now people say, no, we're taking a government contract isn't selling out. Yes, it is, because there's stipulations when you sign that goddamn contract. There's crazy stipulations to that. And the level to how you want to help your people, you can't do it because now you're contractually bound. That means you're going to do the dirty work of the oppressor when the oppressor needs to push an agenda, or else we're going to cut your funding. We're going to unrecognize you because you gave them that power. Okay? When Edward Stiaga was in keeper of the records of Jamaica, what they call in corporate terms Jamaica, it's a lot of records got destroyed. I'm not asking anyone, I'm telling you. All right? When you put certain people here on the mainland in charge of your records, the very same people that will look you in your face and call you nigger and darky, right? Or the very same Pan-Africans that's pushing Africa all day, their feelings get hurt when they see those fucking documentations. And when they're the ones that has to retype it back in the computer, they alter that shit because they're in their feelings. Okay? We need you guys to wake up. You need to check on your genealogical records. You need to check. When you check on the records, you're checking on your ancestors. We need you to do these things. Okay? For some reason, people are so closed off from actually wanting to do some type of footwork. And it's sad because the oppressors are doing a hell of a lot of footwork to rip you apart. And that's a fact.
But
yeah, go ahead.
I cannot believe that, I mean, it's 2020 and I had hoped that we had left racism in the 50s. You know, I don't see this. I don't see why in modern days we should still be having issues of racism. You know, I think it's also a sick mentality on the part of the racists, especially when they try to reinforce, further traumatization and basically they try to give indigenous people PTSD. When you tell people that the reason why, they have their names is because their ancestors were raped or, all kinds of horror stories. Now, I'm not saying that, people weren't raped. I mean, even today, I'm sure the people who work for sexual offenses in various police stations will tell you that rape is a thing that occurs daily. So I'm not denying that doesn't happen. But to be telling people who you don't know, people who you have no idea of their ancestry, that the reason why they got their name is because their ancestors were raped and they have slave names, And I think people need to distance ourselves from such racist ways of thinking. We need to just completely distance ourselves from that line of thought, and each person needs to just look into their ancestry and their genealogy. I do believe that the colonizers are trying to divide us based on the various things that distinguish us. The ways in which we are different, it's what makes us able to appreciate one another. It's what makes each other unique. it's what makes us, have a unique experience and a unique contribution to share with each other when we do come together, But somehow the colonizers are using these differences to divide us and tear us apart, I know that there are a lot of indigenous Americans, American Indian people of indigenous Amerindian descent. I know a lot of them that they may have mixed ancestry, and their ancestor, maybe their mom may have took a lighter complexion individual, or maybe their dad took a lighter complexion individual, and as a result, they may be a bit more fair skinned. But does that invalidate their ancestry? That if they do have an indigenous ancestor, does that invalidate their ancestry? What makes them indigenous enough to have a conversation? What makes them indigenous enough to identify with the ancestry of their parents or their grandparents? There are some people who they may be mixed with an ancestor from a different place. Maybe they have Scottish ancestry or African ancestry or Australian ancestry, Chinese ancestry. I know people that are mixed with Asian and indigenous, or Asian and European. People come together, right? People from different places, they always come together because we're all human, right? Exogamy is something that has been practiced for a really, really long time. In the ancient days, that was how, different tribes would come together. You marry somebody, maybe the daughter of a chief may marry the son of another chief, right? That's how alliances were made. Yes. And exactly, and as Alex just said, that's how wars were ended, to avoid war. So I don't understand what is this aversion to peaceful ways of coming together, marriage and love and alliance. I don't understand why there is such hate surrounding it. And this is also what causes a lot of people to really want to separate themselves from their own heritage because of the hate that's surrounding it. I mean, even though you have them trying to demonize certain words that our people identify with, back in the day, the word Indian was demonized. Even today, you have people of my parents' generation and my grandparents' generation that in that time, the word Indian was being demonized. The word Indian was being used was being associated with savages or lazy people or stupid people, bush people, all types of slurs that were being directed at our people that caused a lot of harm and injury. And even now, the word Abo is being used to injure our people and to disrespect our people. I know that even in Australia, the word Abo is a big derogatory slur that's used to disrespect the indigenous people of Australia, right? And even though it's being directed at us here in the Americas, and we sticks and stones, right? They always say sticks and stones, but sometimes words do hurt. When you say things to hurt other people, and people know that their words affect other people when they use it, and I just want to encourage one another, just be respectful to each other. There's no reason to try to deliberately hurt somebody. There's no reason to try to deliberately be offensive towards somebody. Anybody can claim their heritage. Everybody should claim their heritage. It's who you are. It's what makes you unique. And when people try to use these derogatory slurs and these racist slurs to try to hurt people and try to get people not want to identify as with their heritage, or not want to identify with their ancestors, that's a genocidal way of thinking. Because when people, because of this negativity that's surrounding these words, right, they may not want to identify with something that's negative, and they're using semantics to hurt us. They're using words and semantics to hurt our people.
Yeah, that's true. And some of our people fall for it because it's word spells. They will hit you with a verbal contract right there on the spot through a spell, and you don't even know that you're being hit with a spell and a contract at the same time, right? Like you had the Tainos going through the streets of Jamaica, and they're saying to the people in the streets, the vendors, hey, right, right, the original the people of the land are the Tainos, right? And the person's like, what? What? Well, we know the original people of the land were our, and then they say no, right? They were Taino. And then even if you're saying yeah, just to get rid of them, you ended up having a spiritual contract with them. That's what that is. These are spells being casted upon you. So what you did, you further empowered them even more, right? And when you go home and you tell the story to your elders is looking at you like, why would you say yes? Did we tell you that that's who we were? Did we tell you that that's who we are? Did we even tell you anything about anything named a Taino or anything about an African or anything about these things? Did we tell you these things? No. So why would you agree? Because they use psychology on you. Even if you don't want to agree, they got you to agree. And these were the things that people were trained in. They are trained what you call it Marxist. Just like the Black Lives Matter folks who are trained Marxists. They're trained in these things. And then they're sent out into the community. Okay? So, we got to wake up, man. Is there any information that anyone want to share, screen share or anything like that?
I remember you saying about the names and stuff like that, and Alex as well. You're speaking about the links back to Europe. I checked my emails, and then I did manage to find something, and then it kind of led me to a few other things. So I don't mind showing a few things for like 10 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes.
All right, let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, I've got it up right now.
Okay, all right, so let me set you up then.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should just pull up. You got it up your set, right? Your screen.
But if you restart the connection, the audio is becoming corrupted with us.
All right. Give me 1 second then. Oh, let me hit your screen share. Let me add you to the screen.
All right. So the first thing that I had, this came from a subscriber that I have called Purple Carnations. So shout out to Purple Carnation. She actually gave me this quite a while back, and I've been waiting for like the right time to kind of use it, like for the right type of topic. So I'm feeling like that would be now. So the book that she actually passed on to me is called White People, Indians, and Highlanders, and it's by Colin G. Calloway. So it was really the introductory part of the book that actually drew my attention to. So I'm just going to read that part of the book. It's literally like the first 3 or so pages, and then I'll move on to something else. So this is to do with the Scottish Highlanders. This is the context of who they're speaking about. So they say that they were routinely described as wild, savage, barbarous, primitive, lawless, warlike, treacherous, vengeful, lazy, dirty, poor, superstitious, and always in need of instruction and improvement. They were the tribal peoples who inhabited the northern frontiers of Great Britain and the western frontiers of North America. They had more in common than the derogatory terms applied to them. A collection of voyages and travels published in London in 1745, the year of the last Jacobite rising, contained a frontispiece captioned "Description of the Habits of Most Countries in the World." It depicted the dress of Chinese, Moguls, Persians, Turks, Tartars, Poles, Muscovites, Laplanders, Hungarians, Dutch, Spaniards, Hottentots, Negroes, Moors, and Mexicans. Scottish Highlanders, rather overdressed, shared the bottom of the page with Indians from Virginia and Florida. Some authors identify a mutual respect and deep affinity between Highlanders and Indians based on parallel warrior traditions, a clan-based social structure, and above all, a profound independence of spirit. Although this is overstated, there was something to it. According to an account from a gentleman lately arrived from New York, published in the Scots magazine and repeated elsewhere, when the Black Watch Regiment arrived in America at the start of the 7 Years' War, Indians reputedly flocked from all quarters to see them, and from a surprising resemblance in the manner of their dress and the great similitude of their language, the Indians concluded they were anciently one and the same people, and most cordially received them as brethren. So this is the image that they were just describing. That's the frontispiece from a collection of voyages and travels from the curious and valuable library of the late Earl of Oxford, 2 volumes. So these people on the right, these would be your Highlanders from Scotland. John Campbell, Earl of London and Commander.
Not to cut you there, yeah? Scroll
Yeah.
back up to the picture a minute too. Let me
Yeah.
show you something, yeah? Now, if you guys, I don't know if you guys will see me. You see the scepter here that the brother is holding? The round top right here, the scepter? Yeah. So in the Highland tribes, they too carry these scepters also as well. Each tribe has their own scepter. Each clan has their own scepter as well, right? So there's many similarities between the Americans and the Highlanders, right? Just to point that out. But go ahead,
Yeah.
bro.
No, definitely, yeah. So it goes on to say, John Campbell, Earl of London and Commander-in-Chief of the British forces in North America, said the Black Watch were more likely than any other troops to get along with Indians because the Indians have an opinion that they, the Black Watch, are a kind of Indians. General John Forbes referred to his Highland troops and his Cherokee allies as cousins. The Cherokee chief, Okonostota, or Standing Turkey, was inducted into the St. Andrew's Club of Charlestown, South Carolina in 1773 and thereby became an honorary Scotsman. British Indian agent Alexander Cameron lived with the Cherokee so long that he had almost become one of themselves. Countless Scots lived in Indian country, had Indian families, and in effect became Indians. 18th century Gaelic poems refer to Indians as Coiltich, forest folk. A poem reputed to be the first Gaelic song composed in North America said, the sin and R and is that Insanach, Sinatich, Gulor. We've turned into Indian sure enough. Originally, you are Indian sure enough. The words of the song seem to have changed, have been changed in the 19th century as Gaels came to see parallels between their own disposition and that of native peoples in America. So by the 19th century in Western Canada, Eastern New York and the mountains of Tennessee and Montana, one could hear Cree, Mohawk, Cherokee, and Salish spoken with Gaelic accents. In the 1860s, a visitor to Fort Pelly, a Hudson Bay Company post west of Lake Winnipegus, heard Scottish children whose parents dressed them in their clan tartans every Sunday, acquiring a fluent use of Indian dialects in addition to their Scottish brogue, which is so thick one could cut it with a knife. Robert McDougall, who wrote An Emigrant's Guide to North America in Gaelic, believed he saw many similarities between Gaels and Indians, particularly in language. The slow, soft, pleasant speech he heard among the Algonquins of Canada was, he thought, merely a branch of the Gaelic language, and he found words with similar words and meanings. The Algonquin word, Saganash, which means white man, and the Gaelic term, Sassenach, which means Englishman, for instance. Some observers even commented that Indians had a fondness for the bagpipes. So American historians who simply identify Highland Scots as British, or even in some cases English, miss significant cultural distinctions and historical experiences. In their relationships to the land and to one another, Highland Scots often had more in common with the Indians than with the English. Both were known for their attachment to their homeland, and they expressed it in similar ways. I grow out of this ground, said a man from Skye in the 1770s, Our ancestors came out of this very ground, and their children have remained here ever since. Kanasatago, speaking for the Iroquois, told colonial delegates in 1744 the Highlanders' affections were more deeply rooted in the soil than any other people except mountaineers equally free. Noted a report on emigration in 1803. So Highlanders and Indians alike inhabited storied landscapes and shared communal landholding practices. Even in the 20th century, some Highlanders retained an attachment to the land that was spiritual and emotional as well as economic. They read the landscapes with an understanding born of intimacy across generations and preserved Gaelic place names imbued with mythical, factual, historical, and personal meanings. They tell of personal experiences and of community events and activities, both in the past and in the present, and have a richness of meaning that goes far beyond the concern with simple reference to a spatial location or to a single event. In this way, place names bind the landscape with human imagination and experience and inform us about a multiplicity of close associations which thereby blend the human and natural worlds into one. So this was the section she wanted me to take a look at. So again, that's the book is White People, Indians and Highlanders, and the author for this book was Colin G. Calloway. So you can actually get this on Google Books, the preview on there. So once I read that, I was quite interested to like find out some more. So I remembered I had this saved as well from like the back end of last year.
Yeah.
This was a really good link because this then again took me to something else. So this is T Miles. So what happened to the original swarthy Black Britons? A ship called the Veteran. So this was dropped back December 11th, 2018. So he goes.
Always have some hidden gems and some good stuff on there. Other than thing, they always got some. They don't discriminate with the information. That's what I like about it.
Right. Because it literally by chance I just managed to stumble on this because he's done one or two other like posts as well which have been quite good. So he starts off with the Aboriginal Britons, England, Wales, Scotland were described by Tacitus, ancient Roman, as swarthy, short and curly haired. So what happened to those original swarthy Black Britons? In 449 AD, the northern Germanic invasion of Britain pushed the surviving British population west to Cornwall, Wales and Ireland and north to Scotland. In 1688 AD, the Stuart King James II was replaced by Parliament with William III and Mary II. They produced no children and succession to the throne got complicated. The Irish and Scottish were later recruited by another Stuart cousin born in France known as Bonnie Prince Charlie to help him capture the British throne. This war was called the Jacobite Rebellion. When they lost that battle, many Scots and Irish were rounded up by the English and imprisoned and later deported to the Caribbean. A close inspection of these ships' logs describes these prisoners. For example, on the 5th of May 1747, a ship called the Veteran, captained by John Rickey, left Liverpool, which is in England, with Irish and Scottish prisoners. So the ship's log describes a percentage of those prisoners as being brown-skinned, swarthy, or black. So the prisoner numbered 132 on the veteran list was said to be George Hum, a writer in the legal profession. He was aged 30 from Edinburgh and described as a black man. From what I can tell, he was the most educated prisoner on the ship. Prisoner 1519, Andrew Langer, numbered 86 on the veteran list, was described as a 40-year-old, dark-complexioned, 5'6" tall weaver from Dublin. Prisoner 3314, James Urquhart, numbered 78 on the veteran list, was described as an 18-year-old with a brown complexion and said to be a 5'5" labourer from Aberdeen.
If I can intervene real quick, yeah?
Yeah.
I want everyone to notice that you see how that ship's log, how they have everyone's name written down and their numbers, just like how in the prison system today, they have your name, your prison number that stays with you until it's time for you to leave prison. You see how on that log it's there? You think when if they were bringing Africans over here, you think they weren't logging them just like that? They were logging them. There's always a record.
Mm-hmm.
All right, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, because it's called the African slave trade, and so trade is commerce, so commerce has to go through books.
Yes.
So they go on to say prisoner 2602 was called James Nielsen, and he was from Aberdeen, and he was entered in as swarthy complexioned, whereas prisoner 1138 Charles Grant from Abernethy was listed as brown skinned. Prisoner Dunbar James from Moray was described as black. Prisoner with veteran list number 96, Donald MacDonald from Edinburgh was described as swarthy. James Reed with veteran list number 122 was described as prisoner with dark visage, so also was prisoner 2797 George Reed from Banff, who was described as dark. There were several more dark-skinned and swarthy Scottish and Irish prisoners on that ship, and a quick look through this list will quickly provide any researcher the correct perspective. These prisoners were originally captured on the 30th of December 1745 and imprisoned in York Castle, Lincoln Castle, among other locations. The ship sailed near Antigua on the 28th of June 1747. However, for reasons unspecified, the prisoners were taken by the diamond privateer Paul Marshall and released in Martinique on the 30th of June 1747. And you see how we dropped a link here. So me being me, I clicked on the link. And then sure enough, it took me to the list of prisoners transported on the Veteran. So if we go through some of these descriptions now, it's going to clearly show you that obviously if when they're talking about brown people and whatever, it must be you, because they describe other people as being pale on the same list. So, and they clearly describe the skin, the complexion and the hair as separate factors. So if we look at, for example, there was quite a few that were quite interesting. Just bear with me and I'll point them out to you as I go down. For example, see, look, just as an example, you have James Anderson from Rossshire, was a tailor, prisoner number 44, Carlisle, Lancaster Castle. So you see he's aged 25 years, 5 foot. He's dark hair, but he's pale. So we know pale is the complexion, it's not the hair, it's not anything else, because if we go to just here to George Bain from Aberdeenshire, who was a labourer, he was prisoner number 83 on the veteran list. He was 25 years, he was 5'5", he had black hair, and he was swarthy. So obviously swarthy is the opposite of pale.
Yep.
There was quite a few that they noted on here. Let me go.
Another thing I want to point out, if folks know, all of these prisoners, all of these folks that was being shipped out were all males. Okay, they were all males. So that means if you go ahead, Arawakan, go ahead.
No, I said I was about to say I could share something to prove it, to prove that there are majority is male, or majority of them.
Yeah, man, get it ready, and I'll put it up. But to point out the obvious, the basic science to what I said earlier, yeah. When folks want to discriminate and say the darker you are, they throw you back in Africa. We know that certain genetics of people have a low birth rate, and certain genetics of people have a high birth rate. And what Darwin figured out, that in 3 generations, they could breed out majority of the population of a people. So what do you need to do? You need to segregate the males from the females. Today, we call it feminism, okay? You need to segregate the males from the females. So they shipped out the males and exiled them throughout the Americas and other places in the world, all right? And they kept the females. So what you think happened with the females? They bred with them, and they bred their population back into existence, okay? Because you think those wars didn't have a astounding effect on their numbers also as well? Put that in with a low birth rate. Wake up, people. This is why today they still experiment with your genetics today. Wake up. All right. So when you see people coming and trying to say, well, the darker you are, the ancestors came from Africa, and this African, no, that's trickery. That's wordplay. All right. They're straight up disrespecting you. They're straight up disrespecting the peoples that they now calling Africans now today, because they're literally calling you monkeys. That's what it is. Okay. It's displacing you from your lands, because that whole African thing is a corporate construct. So you identify with anything dealing with that, you lock yourself back underneath the same colonizing corporation, that is colonizing over there in that side of the world, which is originally called Asia. All right, you're locking yourself in their corporate construct, which those same people are still over here with a military occupation. This is what's not happening. You got anything more that you were sharing, Locono? Or was it Locono or Kappa?
Yeah. No, there was a Joseph Brown from Banff. He was a tailor. And then again, when you look at his description, it says that he was 16 years. He was 5'6" and dark complexion. So again, like it goes on and on. I'll post a link to this when I upload the video onto my own channel so people can read it in more depth and see for themselves. But yeah, the last thing I'm going to show, this came from Yoss. Some of you will already be aware who Yoss is. Shout out to Yoss because I follow him on IG as well. We talk on there. He dropped something a little while ago and actually managed to find the actual PDF itself. He found a really brilliant book and he was given a little tiny bit of insight into it. This book is a description of the Western Islands of Scotland, containing a full account of their situation, extent, soils, product, harbours, etc., etc.
That's a good book. That's a very good book.
Yeah, so just to draw on one or two things in here. We cut to this page here. Wait, no, it was this one even. Wait, where was it? There's a page I was looking for. Yeah, here we go. Wait. Yeah, let me zoom in. There we go. All right, so yeah, this particular part of the book, they're referring to the Scots that live along the Isle, the Scottish Isles. So they say that the inhabitants of this isle are generally well proportioned and their complexion is for the most part black. They are not obliged to art in forming their bodies, for nature never fails to act her part bountifully to them, and perhaps there is no part of the habitable globe where to few bodily imperfections are to be seen, nor any children that go more early. So clearly here you see that they're saying of the Isles, of where is Scotland, that Isle section, the people are mostly black, or for the most part black, which means majority. So then if we go to here.
And you know, that's what I said to people, even when Americans go over to Scotland or Ireland now today, in certain parts you are highly welcome, right? They highly welcome you and they are highly appreciative of your presence there. Like I said, my cousin was there, and at first he found it strange. He was like, damn, they really love me out here. But now that he hear that how we're breaking down the history, he's getting it to why. Right. Yeah.
So this part again, they're talking about another section of the Isles, and they say the inhabitants of this isle are well proportioned, generally brown. And again, I suppose people would get, caught out with the word brown but then it says, and some of a black complexion. So, and this is where it's like, it's messy, because we know that, when they're saying brown, it's more to do with the complexion of the skin, where it's kind of in the middle. It's not necessarily of an extreme dark or an extreme light, appearance. And then the black is basically just to say it's a darker resemblance of the brown. And then people are always looking for the word black, to prove that something is, if somebody's original to the Americas, they're looking for the word black. If someone's original to the landmass of Europe, they're looking for the word black. But you need to understand that, in this kind of fate matrix, they've made brown and black, how do I put it, interchangeable. Yeah. So, here again, they're saying that people were brown, but then some of a black complexion too. So they're telling you difference of skin tone, which, you and your people naturally possess. So it could only be you they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So then even this part over here now, let me zoom out. Where is it? Yeah, up here. Okay. So it says there is a church here called Killen. The inhabitants are all Protestants and observe the festivals of Christmas, Easter, and, well, it says Michaelmas there. They do not open a grave on Friday and bury none on that day, except the grave has been opened before. The natives here are very well proportioned, being generally black of complexion and free from bodily imperfections. They speak the Irish language and wear the plaid, bonnet, etc. as other islanders. So last one I think is on this one here. I'll just zoom out 1 minute. There we go. Yeah, so again, the Isle Colonley is 4 miles in length from east to west and above a mile in breadth. The mold is brown and sandy on the coast and affords but a very small product, though they ploughed their ground 3 times. The middle is rocky and heathy, which in most places is prettily mingled with thick evergreens of Erica bassifera, jumper, and cat's tail. The cattle bred here are cows, horses, and sheep, all of a low size. The inhabitants are generally well proportioned and of a black complexion. They speak only the Irish tongue. And yeah, again, I'll drop the link for this book when I upload the video on my own channel. But that's pretty much what I dug up really so far.
Drop a link to your channel in the chat too, okay?
Yeah, let me get that now.
All right. Arawak, you ready? Well, Arawak was dropped from the screen.
Yeah, and not to mention, remember. Yeah.
Yeah, you ready?
Not to mention too. Remember, a lot of our people from over there too.
Yeah.
Remember, y'all hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, not to mention. You know what I'm saying? You're
Yeah,
they messing with your sound, bro.
Yeah, they've been messing with especially yours. It's been like turned down and up, and at one point I couldn't hear you at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And at one point, I was hearing copper, but not you, which is really, really strange.
Because what they did is they put a 20 to 30 second delay on my stuff, and then when it's look like it's going to go through, they have it chopped. They chop it up, right? So they're tampering with the feed. They're throttling the connection.
See, I can barely even hear you, but we're gonna push through because the people have to get this information.
All right, as long as you guys have the info, go ahead.
Are you seeing my screen?
Yeah.
All right. So this is to prove that the majority of people that left Europe or that came as indentured servants, they were mostly male. At least 98% of them was male. All right. So this is an indentured servant basic search result. So the only thing that's not on this list is the ship, the name of the ship, and I think they did that for a reason. I think they hide the name of the ship for a reason. But anyway, check this out. So since all y'all like to talk about the majority of people that that's got sent to Jamaica as Africans and all of this. All right, check this out. Let me just put all that shit to rest right now. This is a servant name over here, George Alan Yorks, right? He's from Yorks, place of origin. Alan Yorks, right? Destination, Jamaica, right? They hired the ship. The year was 1723, male. Agent, they had agents, right? They all have agents. John Taylor. They don't put place of origin, but he's a yeoman, a chapman, okay? No, check this out. This is the same year, around the same time. It's in February, Maryland, right? Alloway. So the people named Alloway, they're people from Middlesex in England, right? St. Martin's, Maryland. Got sent to Maryland, right? This one down here, Isaac Alborn, got sent to Jamaica. This one down here got sent to Antigua. This one down here got sent to Pennsylvania. All of them came from Europe. Laborer, carpenter, they had professions. You see all of that?
Mm-hmm.
You see the
Now,
screen?
you know, what I
So-
noticed too, right? Not to cut you. What I noticed too. Could you guys hear me clearly?
Yeah, I'm here now.
What- All right. What I noticed was with a lot of the brothers that were sent over here, they all either were bricklayers, carpenters. They were all either goldsmiths, silversmiths, people of trade. Because if you want to rebuild back someone's civilization that you tore down and you have no way of how to build it because you don't know how to build it, you're going to go get folks who are familiarized with building similar structures to come over and rebuild back certain structures. This is why they also brought over as much as the males as possible that all had a trade.
Yep. All of them had trade. They were not they're not enslaved Africans. They're not all this bullshit, all that crap, right? And this is a total of 3,112 people, right? All of them males. Look, only one female on this whole list. All of them male. I could go on and on and on. I'm going to number 3, and I have up to probably 200 different tables, right? This is number 3. So, right, check this out. All male. All males. Males. One female. Males. Mostly males. Males. Men. Can they be all males and an area without females? So who were the females that was reproducing with? All these males that come over here, who were the females that reproduced with? All these males with these surnames, right? Where a lot of us may have here, like Archer, right? My surname is Archer. Okay. Jamaica, see? Sent to Jamaica. Look, male. From where? His son comes. This is not Africa. Right? None of them come from Africa. So when I pull up there, I'll pull up where they come from. Right? Male. Place of origin. His son camps. At London. Okay? None of these people from Africa. So what you talking about?
You know, it's like I watched
Much more
that
embarrassing
Taino.
you want.
I watched that Taino, right? Take one of my family's clan name and created an entire page with it, calling them Africans, right? And mind you, I went into the archive of records and I pulled up the history of that name. And the name itself don't even mean nothing with Africa. The name is literally this. The name itself, the meaning of the very name, is describing the original features of the Irish. And I said, look how wicked these people are. Right? This is how wicked these people are. And this is how your identity is changed in front of you. And it's not just them. Like I said, you have these folks that look like you within these communities that are shipping you back to a place that your ancestors don't come from, that are shipping you back to a place that has nothing to do with you, okay? Because they understand once you are physically off the land or once you are through paperwork written out of the land, that means that anyone else can come in and claim and assume whom you are. They could come in and claim your land, your inheritance, okay? That means they can say, well, you never existed. You see what I'm saying? And this is why I tell people, if you're going to do a name change, man, don't change the name. If you're going to add on, just add on a name onto the name, but keep that name, because that is your entire lineage, your bloodline. You'd be surprised what it holds. And if you give up that name, someone else is going to come right behind you and claim that shit. All right, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Yep. And check this out. All of this happened in the 1700s. So you know that this whole narrative only happened more recently. This whole African narrative only happened recently. Yeah, that's very recent. All these people got shipped to the colonies over here. As they come as indentured servants, right? Check this out. North Carolina, Jamaica, Maryland, Antigua. So I want to know what when people on the mainland that like to have disputes of our origins in the Caribbean island. Look right here. The same way they were shipping the people from England to Virginia and Maryland and all these places. They were shipping them in the islands too. The same time. Around the same time, the 1700s, July, December, months apart. Okay.
So when you have Jones like Nelson, when you have names like Jones and Nelson and these names, and you were tricked to believe it was a slave master's name, it was not. And you went ahead and you gave up your name. Okay. But I mean, look, this is a lesson learned. Claim back what is yours. That's all.
All male. So the question is, who are these male procreating with?
Exactly.
They didn't come with females. They all come as males. So my question is, who were these males procreating with? Who? And hence why we have these surnames. This is the reason why we have these surnames.
Exactly.
Because to my understanding or my overstanding, the people in the Americas didn't go by surnames. They go by villages. They have their village. So this is where the incorporation of surname came from. And these are not slaves. These are either exiles. Well, they are slaves in a way, yes, indentured, but it's a contract. It's not how you think. It's not how they got captured and some of them got kidnapped. Yes.
I think that
Go ahead, sis.
I do believe that what it goes back to is our understanding of the word slave. In those days, you know, it was really serfdom, whether you have land or not. So if you were on somebody else's land, you know, you were a serf. So you would either be a tiller of the soil and farm the land and give them a percentage or a share. It would be like sharecropping that they did in North America, or the encomienda system that they did here in the West Indies on the indigenous people here with the Spanish. But similar to that, you know, that feudal serfdom system, you know, that's coming from ancient times. So I think, you know, it's really serfdom is a proper word, because the word slave comes from the word Slav. You know, it comes from
Slav.
The time when, you know, repeat?
No, go ahead, sis. Go ahead.
Yeah. It comes from the time when the people of, you know, North African origin, you know, who they call them Moors, but that's not their clan name or tribal name. They have the names that they call themselves. But those people in the time when they were, you know, in Europe, you know, they like to take Slavic women. You know, and they had harems, and that was in the time when they had harems. So that's where the term slave comes from. So it's actually a racial slur that, you know, we need to understand the origins of it. And it's that misunderstanding really that, you know, rubs people the wrong way when they hear of the word slave or slavery, you know, as it's being spoken about in modern context. So it in the American perspective, or in the West Indian perspective, in that period of time that we're speaking about, when the indigenous Gaelic and Celtic people of Europe were being indentured, were coming over here as indentured workers. I do believe that we need to understand what exactly was happening, the nature of what was happening. They were coming here to do trade work. And of course, when you are an immigrant going in another country, you're not a landowner if you're going in another country. So it's all about status at the end of the day. Just the same way in which in modern context, when you go somewhere else, I know, for example, in North America, in the US, they like to call people who are not from there, or who weren't born there, people who left from another place and went to North America, they like to call them immigrants. That's the term that's used in present day, in that present place. But in another time in history, the word was serf or sojourner. So it's all about the terms. We need to just understand the terms, and that's where the misunderstanding comes from.
Yeah, just perception. And also too, if you look at this, even this chart will tell you, if they were coming as males and they didn't have a land, what would be the alternative to get land? To wed the female. To wed the female, right? To wed the woman. Right? To marry the woman, and hence they get claim over the land by having a child with the woman, bearing children together. Yeah. Right? So this is what you guys weren't taught. You guys weren't made aware of all what was going on for real, because they got the records. The records is right here. And they deliberately hide the ships. Why? Because now we could ask for that ships manifest. Right? So they took the ships off of it, and we could say, oh, we want to see veterans manifest. But no, you don't see the ships. So how are you gonna look into the manifest? Right? So my thing is, you gotta think, man, all these last names, all these surnames, you have inheritance. These are royal names. These surnames belong to the royals of Europe. Okay? A lot of these names belong to the royals of Europe, and you more than likely you have a claim to certain lands over there, certain locations over there, certain like chiefdoms, some kingdoms over there, right? And then when you put that together with your American Indian ancestry, you know how much power is behind that, because you have it on both sides, right? And this is what they're trying to hide from you. This is why they closed down these records, these archives.
This is why they created these imaginary borders. Okay, and this is why now they're making it difficult for you to travel out of the country, all right, or even come back in the country. This is why they tell about, we're going to charge you $2,000 in New York. They want to charge you $2,000 if you don't want to submit back to a fake ass COVID-19 test when you come off that plane. And then they're telling you if you leave the airport, you broke the law, and there's no law. There's no such law. Okay, and this is why the Supreme Court ruled against these governors. Yep. All right, and this is why the Supreme Court in Jamaica, what they call Jamaican corporate paper, ruled against them falsely imprisoning people using the code COVID-19. I know this is straying from the topic, but as long as you can prove that the mask is harmful to you, they can't make you wear it in any establishment. No government, no governor, no mayor, no governor general, no prime minister, no one. That's law. Okay, that's constant. Yep. That's in all constitutions. Also, you have to protect yourself. You have to know law and not their policies that they give you or publicize. Anyway, though, bro. Yeah, keep going, bro. Hold on to Arawak. Go ahead, sis.
Go ahead.
It's very important that, especially in the West Indies, that we cling to all our heritage, because it informs who we are. It informs our identity because, okay, say you are mixed, say you are mixed with indigenous European, or say you have African and Amerindian, or Amerindian and European. If it is that you claim you don't know all of your heritage, you can end up being disenfranchised, because when the indentured workers came here, when they came here, they were landless. A lot of them were landless, and not everybody was given land. Some people were, because I know the East, the Hindus, when they came here, they got land. And they were able to set up themselves. The Asians, the Chinese, they were able to set up themselves. But not everybody got land, and so the Celts and the Gaels and those people, a lot of them had to, in order to get land and in order to secure, rights and an inheritance and a family, in order to be able to have land to plant food and have somewhere to live and just raise a family. In order to do that, they had to, they had to marry
Indian woman.
Yeah, they had to marry the Amerindian people, and not everybody did that. Not everybody is of that ancestry. As you know, we're a diverse people, so I'm not saying everybody is X or everybody is Y.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just speaking generally for those who may be mixed with whatever. I can't tell you who you are. That's your personal history. That's something that you have to look into with your mother, your father, your grandparents. You have to consult your family about that. And if it is that colonization has harmed them so much that they simply don't know that that wasn't passed on, because in certain situations, a lot of our family members died early, and left the children orphans, and so they were not able to learn that history from their elders. A lot of our people went through the foster care system, or some people's parents were in prison. Some people's parents were exiled. Some people's parents migrated to a different land, seeking a better life. Whatever the situation is for everybody, not everybody has the luxury of that family tradition. But in situations like those where they fail, look for the records. Don't let anybody tell you that it's impossible, because each piece of your genealogy is a piece of the puzzle. And I always like to say, we are the writers of tomorrow's history. So our actions inform what will be written in the future, right? About the future's past, right? We are the ones that our actions are what determines what will be written for tomorrow. So you have to know, you have to look back and see what happened in the past, so you can know the role that you play for the future. So it's very important that we all look into each pieces of our ancestry. Don't be ashamed. Don't let racist people use negative stereotypes to dissuade you or make you disinterested in knowing who you are and your people, right? Every ethnicity has some beauty to it, right? Every piece of who you are is worth investigating and finding out more about, right? Even if you may not have, because in a lot of situations, people may have, say somebody who was not the best father, or somebody who was not the best mother, and as a result of that, they may not be interested in knowing what that parent, what their heritage is. But we need to look beyond that and look past people who have not made the best decisions, because we need to understand that there are good and bad people out there, and we shouldn't make experiences with one person dissuade us or inform how we view a larger group, because that is the root of prejudice. That is the root of discrimination, right? So we need to be able to look past that and dig deeper. Say for those of you out there who you may not have had a good relationship with your father, maybe your father is of a different ethnic group than your mom, or maybe your father is of a different tribe than your mom or a different community. It's still worth looking into. Maybe his grandparents were great. Maybe the people that he's from is awesome. Maybe they have something amazing to teach you. Maybe there's something amazing that you need to learn about that part of your history. But we can't let hate and division separate us from who we are. We can't let negative experiences hurt us in such a way as to permanently injure us. We have to pull together as a people and move forward. We have to, the negative experiences that we've had and that we are having and that we may have, we need to use them as learning experiences and learn from them. Every negative experience just shows you a different perspective. Maybe you may not agree with that perspective, but now you've learned that there are people that think in such a way, and now you've been informed that this is how they think, and this is why they may act in such a way, and this it helps us to learn how to deal with people in a society, because at the end of the day we all have to live with each other, whichever ethnic group that you're from, whichever clan, whichever community, we all have to share this earth.
Yeah. So, and also too, right here, when you see, like, this is 3 different Bennetts, no, 4 different Bennetts, 5 different Bennetts, and all these Bennetts were sent in different colonies. Bennett 1 was sent in Jamaica, Bennett 2 was sent to Pennsylvania, Bennett 3 was sent to Virginia, Bennett 4 sent to Jamaica, Bennett 5 was sent to Pennsylvania. So you see, it's not just, we are spread out, okay? The bloodline spreads out on the mainland and in the islands. And this is why we keep on trying to tell you guys, like, a lot of us are related. Okay? And whether you like it or not, that's just the truth. You know what I'm saying? So, as I'm saying, these are majority males, right? All males, majority of what they sent here was males. That's not even a debate. So, what happened when these males leave their homeland? Most likely they took over their inheritance, they took over their estate, and then they said it was like they called them they declared them lost at sea. The Sestuke Act, right? When they left and they didn't show up after 7 years, all their estate was turned over to the crown. Okay? So a lot of the crown on a larger scale really have a lot of questions to answer, both on that side and on this side, because to this day the crown is still claiming to be head of state of these subsidiary corporations known as Jamaica, all these stuff on these lands, on the Americas. So they have a lot of explaining to do on both sides, both in Europe and both in the Americas.
Because the crown is originally a debtor. They're not creditors. They're originally debtors. All right, and that's what people have to understand also as well. So when people think that they're indebted to the crown, it's quite the opposite. Because remember, it was where all the damages that has happened to you, it came from the power of the crown. Okay, so you can't be indebted to someone or something that has done harm to you and done everything it could to rip you away from your wealth, your lands, your family, your ancestry, right? So to disenfranchise you, so they can never be a entity that you're in debt to, because everything that they have was stolen. Okay.
Yep. And what they did,
Yeah, go ahead.
they got rid of the males. All the males. Why? Isn't that what they're doing now?
Because
With our
remember,
women?
in European thing, it is the sons. The sons you normally inherit in certain lands. The sons normally inherit the crown. All right,
Right.
or the
The estate.
yes.
So my thing is, what they are doing to us today when they're separating our families and they take the man, they make sure get rid of the men, and then they have what? Section 8. So the women are even encouraged to get rid of the males, right? So they could live off Section 8.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nothing different. It's the same thing, right? They keep the males out, right? The majority, all of them are males. So all of these people right here, the males, they pretty much lost their inheritance if they didn't go back to claim it.
Yeah, and these were males of high ranking statuses, a lot of them. Right?
Yeah, carpenter. Look, right here, this one says what? It tells them husbandman, schoolmaster, carpenter, joiner, weaver, surgeon. A surgeon? Right? A surgeon. Okay? You all know what a surgeon is. Bookkeeper, apothecary. I'm not sure what that profession is. But these people weren't unskilled. They all had high professions.
Yeah.
Okay? So when they come here, and some of them couldn't even make the trip back. Majority probably didn't make the trip back.
That would be the
Right?
modern day pharmacy.
What they did, they stayed. Okay. So that's what I'm telling you. You gotta hold on. Look, Biggs, Sarah Biggs. I just saw the Biggs coat of arms crest yesterday. Right? I saw that crest. So a lot of these are royal, noble people that came over as in there, and they probably just took deals just to not get their whole family wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
To be clear,
You know what I'm saying?
brother, when you mention the word royal, I know a lot of people they get the spidey senses start to tingle when they hear that word. I think we need to make it clear that the original Celtic ancestors, they didn't view a king as a tyrannical leader. It was all elected, and if they didn't see where that it was really a chiefdom, it's the Anglo-Saxon way of putting things to call it a royal or a kingdom. It's really chiefdoms, and the family members, the clan elects the chief. And that person is supposed to, do things in the best interest of the clan. No. And if they see where he's not or she, if they're not doing their job properly, then they'll find someone else. They're accountable to accounts and all of that. It's a court, so it's not an oppressive rulership type thing, So let's just be clear for those out there who are,
no,
they like that one.
To add to that,
it's a rank.
Yeah, to add to that, this is where you get your presidential system here in the Americas today, and that's why he's known as the executive commander in chief. Okay, and this is the
Say that again, brother. They really chipped out your mic. I don't know if the people can hear you, but just say it again because I couldn't.
Oh, I was saying this is why they have the presidential system to how they have it now today. This is why he's called the commander in chief or executive commander in chief. That's the system that they copied off of. Okay? And when your elected officials are not doing their job according to your standard of how they're supposed to do it, you can rightfully remove them from that position. Okay?
Oh yes, because the U.S. system, we need to look back at the history and see who were the people that were really involved in the fighting, because remember, when they exile a lot of those Celtic and Gaelic people, they send them to the Americas, the U.S. included. well, not the US because it didn't exist, but they helped to make it exist.
Yeah.
You know, they were the ones that they were a big part of it. You know, so we need to definitely look into that connection as well and get a bit more acquainted with our history.
Yeah.
Yep. So when you try to not include yourself as not being trying to say, oh, island folks are this and that, you need to look in these records and you see what we're talking about. Virginia, Maryland, they were sent all over the colony, all the colonies they were sent to. None of them was exempt. None of them. They sent all over the Americas, all over. And some of them are from same bloodlines. So it got separated, right?
Yeah.
They're all males, Some of them are brothers and all that, and they got scattered over, dispersed. Okay? The rest of the Caribbean included St. Lucia, Maryland, Virginia, St. Lucia. I guess these were the most popular plantations, the most efficient plantations, most productive.
Well, yeah, because
right?
if
Jamaica, Maryland, all those places,
your land gets stolen from you, or you lose it through poverty somehow, right? And all you know is working the land. You're going to go somewhere where you can provide those skills that you have, right? And the Americas, agriculture was big in the Americas at the time, and another thing that we need to understand is just like how there are many tribes of American people, American Indian, Amerindian people. They're just like how there are many tribes of them with different and distinct cultures and all of that. It's the same for the Europeans. It's the same for the Europeans, and we need to understand that during that time, a lot of different enterprising tribes came over this side of the world and linked with the indigenous people here as well.
That's true. That's
yep.
true.
But what strike me the most, majority of these people are males. That's what strike me the most, right? This one was 19. This is Brown, Ambrose Brown, right? Male from Middlesex. That's London, right? So he was a gardener. They all had occupations like the farm work today. When you go on farm work, they send you like to Canada, all these places. It's the same thing here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, you all gotta really check the facts, the reality, the truth, right? We deal with the truth. We are not colorists. We are not none of that stuff. We just deal with facts. All of this, look, all these people here are brown. They're called brown. This whole page is brown. The whole page. And they were sent all over the Americas. Jamaica, Maryland, Pennsylvania, St. Lucia. So if you have browns, then we all the browns are our family because we were scattered.
Yep.
Okay. And of course, the men married indigenous women. Of course. Yeah. So, we bear both sides of the lineage. Okay.
Yeah.
So we are like in a wonderful position, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's just my take for now, man. I'm gonna stop sharing the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that man, I got something to share as well.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Very powerful, brother.
Yeah, man. Go ahead, brother.
Manners.
Yeah, man.
So before I share my screen, so I'm gonna talk about my experience in England, where me and Copper went to the British Museum, because I know Alex said something about artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
We went there. Now we saw artifacts from around the world and our hemisphere, which is the Americas, and we saw some interesting things. I would like to share certain things. I know I shared certain things to already, You know.
Ready, man. You're ready. You're up and running.
All right. So yeah, so this is North America artifacts. You know, that's the Mayan. You can see Mayan as well. You know, I can't remember what tribe this is, but it's in the Americas. It's ancient. You know, so you have artifacts, you know, in these places. You know, which them teeth.
Now look at that. That's the eagle and the arrow.
Yep.
Right. That's the eagle and the arrow, people, and that's on a shield.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This is Arawak in the British Museum. Another shield. It's from North America. I don't know what exactly this one is.
Mhm.
That many people you might know, but I don't really know. You know? This is a woman from Mexico. And Mexico is a part of the Caribbean, if you don't know, part of the West Indies.
Mhm. So she got Negro features.
Yeah, man. This is in the 1800s, this artifact. And it's ancient Indians. You know. This is more, I think, maybe Arawak, I'm not sure. Yeah, this is in Jamaica. I went back home in the National Museum in Jamaica. This is more in England again. And this is more Arawak and pottery, I think. The same pictures again, so this is a Mayan tablet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is an Arawak Indian artifact that's in the British Museum. The Arawak birds. You know.
The hummingbird.
Yeah, man. More Arawak. You know? And yeah. Wolfcraft Muti. So, you know, did you have artifacts or relics that belongs to us in around the world? Even selling them online on eBay or Amazon and these type of things. You know, artifacts.
When the Chinese are digging up in Jamaica to build roads and these bridges and tunnels, whatever the hell they build down there, they come across artifacts that they call Maya artifacts. I don't know if Brother Alex want to tell the story, or you know.
If so, come man, give him a few, but you know, you can definitely ask him back about that.
Okay. But you know, there's all right. I'll just tell that little snippet. But there's something that I want to ask both of you when he come back. But yeah, so when the Chinese are digging or building what they're building, the workers come across these statues that looks just like the people of the island still today. So they come across these things, and just like how we know here on the mainland, when they come across the statues in the deserts and all throughout the Americas, that they used to bring them into these supposed militarized areas. And what they were doing, they were throwing them in casts of cement and dumping them in the ocean, right? So what they're doing down there in the islands is when they come across these artifacts, they're throwing them, so they say, in the ocean. But I feel like what you're showing now, just like how you're showing how these museums have these artifacts, they're really just taking them and shipping them overseas, right? So because if you look at the Chinese, even the Asian archaeology and statues, they have a lot relating to some of the Maya and Aztec type of carving when you compare the two, right? So to the naked eye, you can't really tell the difference in some ways, right? So yeah, so we know there's a lot of Chinese and Asian architecture that's going up into the Americas. So we know they come across a lot of stuff. Now this takes me back down into even the island of Manhattan or just New York in general, to why they're always doing work in the subway and always digging and drilling in the subway. You don't they come across our catacombs. They come across these tombs down there. And when they're drilling and they're digging, they're covering up all this shit. Like how they got you to believe that the massive graves they came across were African slaves. And now you're learning that the African slave story is a myth. It did not happen. Okay? So those were literally the Seneca village folks whose graves that these folks dug up. And the people that was there before the folks before Seneca village even existed on that land, whose bones they dug up and then called an African burial ground. All right. So understand how deep the deception is, and then you have these pan fries that go out there and push the deception, right? And even when they come across this information, pride won't let them admit, well, we were wrong. Let's apologize to our people and start learning the truth and pushing the truth out there. Okay, we got to wake up. Haiti is another place because the Haitians, for the most part, they're still recognized. The word Haiti means Arawak. That's the definition.
Yep.
That's the etymology of Haiti. It means Arawak. So it's not that they don't know who the Haitians are. They know who they are, which is why they get such a fight, which is why they oppress them the way they are, because they're sitting on trillions of dollars of wealth. And as long as they still have their sovereignty, right, or their independence, as long as they still have that nationality and the world still recognizes them as such, people are going to try to oppress them, put their foot on their necks, try everything they can to destroy their archival records, everything. And these colorist people are going to swoop in and say, "Oh, we were here too." So first you was in Puerto Rico, then you was in Jamaica, now you were in Haiti, now you were in Cuba, now you're in Guyana, now you're in Trinidad, now you're in Tobago, St. Thomas, St. Croix, Bermuda. Now you're everywhere. So what happened to the old statues of the Negro? What happened to those Negro cigar Indian statues? Yeah, brother.
Yeah, man, I'm back. I just
Okay.
letting you know that I'm back.
Okay, so Lacona was just showing some artifacts, right?
What's that?
Lacona was just showing some artifacts that he took pictures of our ancestral artifacts of the Americans in the British Museum.
British Museum, yeah. I think that you had showed us those before. They are quite telling and quite beautiful, really.
Now, do you want to expound on the digging that's happening on your lands up there in the mountains for the artifacts done by certain entities?
Yeah, well, so there's a problem in the island now. And that problem is that there is a particular entity that claims to have authority to do all archaeological digs, etc. The Jamaica National Heritage Trust, and they are said to have derived their authority from a particular act that brought the trust into being. But there are currently no laws on the Jamaican law books that state that that they're in a protection for archaeological materials. And so they have taken it upon themselves, them and the University of the West Indies, Mona, have taken upon themselves to say that they have the authority to do these things. I don't know from where they derive their authority. They would have to prove that to me, but our sacred home grounds, known as Nanny Town, were rightfully the Stony River Valley, where we anciently lived. 1990 or 1991 to 1994, in that period, they did archaeological dig up there. Now, from what I understand, my elder, and I trust him very much, he said that they just wanted to see the town. They just wanted to see where we're originally from, and they asked to be carried there. And at the time, it was thought that maybe if they were shown where we're really coming from, that they would understand just island. Well, they had ulterior motives. They want.
Oh, they're chipping out your phone,
See,
Alex.
If we. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Alright, so they wanted to see if we were really indigenous. They're not gonna say that, but that was the real aim. And what they found confirmed that. They found mostly items that are associated with Amerindian culture. Okay? And they found no African artwork or nothing that pointed to Africa. How they brought Africa into the equation is because they saw items associated with colonization, such as certain glass bottles and buttons and shoes and things, and they said, "Oh, the slaves must have brought those." But what they're not being clear about is that our people interact with everyone who comes on this island, and our people did have interaction with the Spanish. And the people who used to work with or work for the Spanish did come into our place to be with us when the Spanish got too oppressive. Contrary to popular belief, the town in the bush, in the mountains, the original town, was not formed by runaway slaves. We're not saying that slaves did not run away there, but I don't believe that was even an occurrence that took place a lot, because it's a very, very isolated and rugged terrain, very isolated. And it's very challenging for one who does not know the way to reach to such a place. Very, very challenging. As a matter of fact, if you don't know the way, you'll never get there. Just being plain. It's not some place that you just keep on running until you bucked up into this place. No, they put it out there. They took our artifacts, they carried them to the University of the West Indies, and they locked them away. We had the opportunity to go and view those artifacts. And when we asked the person who was supposedly the curator, release these articles to us. They belong to us. You've had them for a very long time now. They are being stored in a very deplorable state. As a matter of fact, the boxes that they are in are termite eaten, and they are very neglected. As a matter of fact, no kind of serious study has been done on those artifacts. They were taken out and then they were boxed away. When we got to that place to review those articles, there was a particular item, and it is what is known as a waiza, or a face mask. And what it really was is an ancient form of a picture that a chief or any other high man would have carved for him, representing himself, and it would have been, or herself, because there were female chiefs as well. It would have been a gift that he would exchange with another high man, another chief. And this practice was seen among the monarchs of Europe as well, in which oftentimes they did not know what their one another looked like, especially if they lived very far away from each other. And so they used to send with their emissaries pictures, paintings, so that one would know what the other would look like, or looks like. And it was a form of goodwill gift to say we're friends, because in those days it wasn't as simple as taking a selfie, right? A commissioned artist would have to come in. He would have to seek herbs and certain rocks and things, grind these down for different colors with eggs and all of these things, and mix his colors. Each color independently. It was a very detailed science and art. It wasn't just an art form. It was a science, and it was chemistry. So it was a big deal. and then a certain kind of wood would be selected for the frame that would, accentuate the painting. And it's the same way. The craftsmanship was very important, and the curator who had those items, he had that particular item and said that he was studying. And I realized that the reason he was studying it so closely is because what it would have indicated is that there was an intact political structure in those parts at the time, right? And we carried that political structure into this century, right? We still have our means of tribal representation. Okay, so it's not that nothing has been lost, that's not the case. And this is what has happened. Our items have been taken and they don't want to return them.
Another thing that, I'd like to speak about is researcher bias. A lot of times, you have people, they go out and they do studies on various different kind of peoples and ethnic groups, and they do it from an ethnocentric perspective or just with ulterior motives in mind, or, sometimes they just have a great conflict of interest. And these things form biases, and then they take these biases and then they further influence the research that they're doing. And it's a great problem, because when you go out and you put these things out about a people, if it's not the correct information, it's harmful. And there were papers done on that study, and you can clearly see the bias of the researcher, because the researcher that wrote the first paper on the study, he was the one that was heavily involved in the dig, and he went in with a certain preconceived notion, and he let his cognitive dissonance shine through, amidst all of the information that he found, amidst all of the evidence, the artifacts that he found. He chose to just reject the evidence that he saw before him and hold to his biases that he went into the research with. And, those things are harmful to indigenous people in particular. It's harmful when you go to a people and you have your own biases, and because of your biases, you're unable to accept the information that is before you. So no matter what the people themselves tell you, no matter what you see in your research, no matter what proof you are confronted with, you reject facts and you reject reality because of your bias. And it's lunacy. If you're going to reject a reality, that you're crazy. And you have these crazy people going around and they're writing papers and they're conducting research and they're hosting speeches and they're saying and writing and doing things that are harmful to indigenous people. And it highlights another reason why it's so important that we as indigenous people, we need to take it upon ourselves to be interested and do the research. It's we can't be blaming the colonizer all the time. A lot of times, because of, and then it's because of the colonization that people may not have a certain interest in certain things, because what they see in the media, when you look in the media and they show you these great pyramids and great sculptures, of people from one particular place, and then your own history is stifled, your own history is hidden. There are great craft works in Jamaica, great artworks. There are lots of artifacts of that the ancestors did. There are even pyramids in Jamaica, and these things are not put out there for people, and especially the youth, to see and identify with and have some pride in our culture. Instead, what is being reflected in the media is is narratives on slavery and rape and violence, and it's like they're just trying to traumatize and, as I said before, reinforce this PTSD on our people, right? And damage our people emotionally. And you find that anybody would want to, in order to get over that trauma, in order to distance yourself from that trauma and that negativity, right? One would want to disassociate from that kind of negativity, and that further leads to an erosion of culture, and it's just a cycle, So we as a people need to be interested in our heritage. We need to be interested in history. We need to be interested in archaeology, and we need to study these things, and we need to put forth our thoughts on these things, because if we remain silent, we will be silent. If we do not speak up, other people will write us out of history. And it's important that we take our own heritage, our own culture, our own identity. It's important that we take up us in hand and manage it and steer it.
The reason why they dug up those artifacts and they keep them in such deplorable conditions is because they don't identify with it, because it's not their people, right? And because they know whom it's coming from, where it's coming from, they want it to deteriorate over time. So what they're doing is they're not going to go and break the artifact. They're just going to leave it there in an environment to where it's going to wither away and destroy itself, right? Because when it was in that ground, when it was underneath that soil, it was in perfect condition. It didn't erode. Nothing like that happened to it. It was great. It was in perfect condition. Now it's in their facility. They're withering away. They have the skeleton remains. They have all these things, right? And some of these things, like I said, it's rumored that they're throwing them in the ocean. But even if they're throwing them in the ocean, they still have the folks from Canada and all these different other regions from Europe that claim that they bought certain aspects of the ocean and are diving in there, saying that they're diving for treasures, right? Well, I see that they're kicking folks out the thing because we're touching on some real stuff, right? But it's the truth. The truth is the truth. This is what's going on, and this is what the Jamaican this is what's been going on in Jamaica for years now. All right. So this is why these people could come in and claim the identity of the folks on the islands and say the folks on the islands come all the way from Africa with this fictitious tale. And now that you know that the slave narrative is fucking fake, it's false. That what they were doing was they were exiling. This is why this is why Europe looks so predominantly pale now, because they exiled all the males, and they know within 3 generations of breeding with the female, they could breed out the darker view complexion. Like I said, in China, they experiment with the black fox to how they could create a white fox and keep the white fox genetics going over and over. And this is how they repopulate. This is why they harvest certain things from the fetuses, the aborted fetuses from the Planned Parenthood and these things. Okay? This is just the reality of the world that we live in. People could get in their feelings and feel like your feelings is hurt if you want it to be, if you let it be hurt. But this is what it is. This is what's been going on. All right? And it all also has to do with the true royal bloodlines. Okay? But this is what it is. All right? Lacona, if you have anything else you want to share, and then we'll get up out of here.
Pick up yourself, man. Yeah, yeah. Check out my online stores. I got we get it for everybody. Ink Apparel. I'm working on a book, a children's book. So it'll be coming out soon in August. So
Yeah,
that's
man.
it.
Yeah, man.
So I'll put a link into the chat for everybody to check out. We care for everybody, Herb, spices.
Yes, I see.
You know what? We get have it in it. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yes, I. Yeah. I'm proud to see this, I'm very happy to see stuff like this. right? This is what we all need to do. We need to start starting our own thing, start building our own businesses, franchise. This is how we're going to be able to help each other, right? This is how we're going to be able to build our communities. We can't sit here and be federal government dependent, right? For a federal foreign entity to pay us a couple millions of dollars here and there, right? It's not even paying us; it's allowance, giving you allowance for a couple hundreds of thousands, a couple millions of dollars for you to start certain societies and these things out there from that federal grant, and thinking that that's something. That is nothing. We need to start putting back within each other and wean off of the federal system, okay? And build back our independence away from the federal system and have more unity with each other, because there comes contracts with those federales. That's all I'm going to say. Arawak, you have anything to say before we close out? Arawak? I guess, yeah.
Yes, I. So all I want to say is we see a lot of activities going on when it comes to this federal stuff, and a lot of people taking, they can't bear their own weight. They just listen, man. Let me put it this way, plain and simple. You don't have to be federally recognized, all right, to get remedy. Okay, learn trust law, because all these so-called federal tribes, all they are just federal trust. That's it. Go back to your ancestral surname and form your own tribal trust. Be your own tribal trust. You don't need a federal to do that. Okay? What they have done is they created a DAS role system. And if you're not on that DAS role, if none of your ancestors didn't sign up for that DAS rules, then you won't be considered so-called Native American or being entitled to
Native.
Native.
A system to box you out. They box
Right.
you out and pick the selected ones that they want to associate with, meaning the ones that's easily submissible.
Right. So it's easier to just, since you have a surname already, that surname is already was a trust granted to you. The trust, it was granted, and you were supposed to be the beneficiary. Just reestablish the trust, fix it up, all right? Try to find out whatever your original on this side of the ancestry, the Americas. Try to find out what the original people call themselves, what was the terms used, and you intertwine all of that, and you create what you have done now. You have re-emerge and re-resurrect your ancestral, because it's not like it wasn't there before. You don't create anything new. You just resurrect it, because it was dormant for all these years, and then you link yourself back to it because of the surname, because as you know, these surnames also link back to a certain location that has been a certain time frame. So wherever these surnames met or wherever they land, that's where that particular tribe was on your maternal side. Okay, so now you know that they landed in a certain particular area, and there was always there, and they didn't leave that area. Then your maternal side is most likely from that area. Okay, and I'm not saying all of I'm not saying all of the last names came from Europe. I'm not saying that, but for the most part, most of them did. Okay, some of these last names came from here also. They actually originated here. That's it. That's why it's important to find out what they did. What they did. What they did with most of our names here, they anglicized it. So say you did name Java, they just call it Javan. You see me, or Johnny, or, you know what I'm saying? They anglicized these names. So I'm not saying all the names, but for the most part, most likely, for the indenture, the location that they came, where the port that they came through, within that area, most likely that's where your maternal side came from. I remember it was just one marriage that took place, right? So you just carrying on that name because of marriage, really. Okay?
Yeah.
So the other 90% of your bloodline is gonna be American Indian. It's just that 1% where that 10% or so the 99% is American Indian, and the 1% gonna be from Europe or wherever there was exile from. Okay? And that was just because of that one marriage where you carry that name. That one intermarriage, that one intermarrying, or that anglicizing of the name. That's all that I think that's what they really do to most of us too. They anglicize the names. So because of the church system, the church. So they gave us names, they gave us certain names, but that doesn't mean they must get rid of the name. That's your genetic marker. And then the church is important too, because whatever church your ancestors went to or attended, most likely that's the area that they came from, because the church is what came. The people build the church, or your ancestors could also help to build that church as well. You never know. So your ancestors was there before the church. That is for sure. But the churches are important, not because it's a sky daddy thing. It's because that's where the records are, and that's where most of our ancestors choose to go to assimilate with these people or met these people.
The churches are the original keepers of the record. And because everything pretty much is really still under the church, that means everywhere your records are, it's still controlled and ran by the church still, right?
Yep.
But those old church buildings that are in the areas where your ancestors came from, they still have the handwritten records in there. They still have them. You got to find them and go to them, right? But folks, we're going to close this out now. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us, everyone in the chat, everyone watching. I'd like to thank you all. To the troll that trolled us. The shadow banners that shadow ban us, we thank you, because at the end of the day, you still have to watch our streams anyway. So yeah, brother Alex is here. I thank you guys for being here, for joining us. Brother Lacono, American Arawak, Copper Hot Stuff. Thank you all for being on the panel today. If everyone want to say their closing statements, we'll start off with Sister Malkia, then Brother Alex, Lacona, then you American Arawak, and then that's it.
I just want to give everybody a warm thank you for your time. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for having me, and thank you for listening. Thank you for being interested in your ancestry and your heritage, and that journey that you're on, wanting to share with others. I'm really grateful for everyone that wants to interact with us and share their journey and learn about our journey. I'm so grateful that we can all come together and learn about the ways in which we are similar and appreciate the ways in which we are different. I think it's important that we honor that the ways in which we are different just as much as we honor the ways in which we are similar. So, I love you all out there. It's just more love, more positivity, and let's just all keep on working hard, keep on fighting the good fight, keep on studying, keep on researching, and just keep on doing more. Let's keep on doing more for our people, because our people need more action-oriented people. Our people need more people that are willing to put aside personal grosses, put aside, petty things, and, just work hard for a common good.
Yeah, and I just like to say we thank you all for always giving us a listening ear. It's not easy, the work that we do, and I'm not complaining, but I'd love for people to understand that every day is a struggle. is a fight because you have people out there who are well funded, well backed, and have all of the connections, and they hate us. And their mission is to disenfranchise all dark-skinned people. But I assure you people out there that we're not going to stop as long as breath is in our body and we're able to move around. We're not going to stop because this is our history, it's our heritage, it's our ancestry, and we love it. It is dearer to us than silver and gold. Right? Nothing could be dearer than bloodline and inheritance. And please, people, stay close to your elders before they go. Try and reconcile with them. Learn whatever you can. If it's even a one-line story, everything has a meaning and everybody has a story to tell. So please, people, try to speak to your elders. And it was wonderful as usual. Thanks again.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that man, it's always a pleasure, man. It's always a pleasure to work.
Yeah, man.
Do what we do, you know. Don't pick up yourself. You come
Yeah,
pick
man.
up yourself, you know. People on the platform, pick up yourself, you know. In the chat, pick up yourself. Playback, pick up yourself, you know. New subscribers, old subscribers, pick up yourself. IG followers, pick up yourself, you know. It's always a pleasure, man. You know, we do this, innit? We do this because we have a passion for it, and this is, we must speak up in it and tell how the thing really goes. So we're talking about the things so people understand where we are come from. Is it? But yes, people, man. It's that time
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Big up everybody who came to listen. Thank you for your views. Thank you for everything. And big up to Dartman X for giving us the opportunity to express our cultural ways to the broader public. And thank you for everybody on this panel and their input. Just know that your work is I appreciate your work, and I encourage you to keep going, keep putting in the work. We're gonna see change. Change will come. Change is happening as we speak. So I want to just give thanks to everybody who has helped us along the way, on this journey.
Yeah,
And
man.
that's my take.
Yeah, man. I thank you all, thank you all for being here. Sister Amin Abdullah, I just saw your email. And let me just say, it'll be all right. Right? It will be all right. When I get off the brothers and sisters and see if there's anything that we could do. All right? Yeah, that's something real serious right there. All right. But to everyone, man, we thank you guys for being here. We thank you guys for taking the time out to being a part of the live, listening. To everyone that had donated to the GoFundMe, to the campaign, we thank you. To everyone that has subscribed to each of our brothers' platforms, we thank you. Carmelo got some fire that he's about to drop on y'all coming up soon too, so look out for that as well. To everyone that has also subscribed to the backup channel, to the Discord, I thank you guys. Yeah, man, to everyone that has supported the Teespring store, I thank you guys. It's just much love all the way around, so we thank you guys, and we're out of here. Peace, love, light, stay safe, travel safe, y'all. All right.